Jiang Xiao Yong narrowed his eyes as he thought, gazing off into the distance. He said, "Already? I thought it would take at least a month or two, and besides, the city's decorations aren't far from Yi City." Shen Song, standing outside and quietly observing, mumbled, "What? What's going on?" Jiang Xiaoyong turned to explain more clearly. "The variation is exactly like you. Depending on each person's situation, you'll maintain your sanity and memory to different extents. That's why hunting will be much more effective than with regular zombies. But because the variation isn't stable, most of you have a violent temper, which makes you extremely dangerous." Chen Song looked a bit worried. He furrowed his brows and stammered, "So, what about me now?" Jiang Xiaoyong placed a hand on Chen Song's shoulder and gently reassured him, "Don't worry, you're very lucky. Plus, I'm here with you. I won't let you lose your sanity." After saying that, Jiang Xiaoyong turned to address the rest of the group and asked, "There must be other survivors in this bitch fly mountain villa area, right?" A man in the group answered, "There are still quite a few people locked up in the real estate office." A woman standing next to him added, "Also, who knows? There might be survivors in the basement too." A while later, Jiang Xiaoyong led the group from before into the room. Together, they headed down to the basement, picking up where they left off. The basement door creaked open just a little, and immediately, red bloodstains were visible on the floor. Many people behind him looked pale at the sight and were sweating profusely. Jiang Xiaoyong was shocked, his expression showing it clearly, and he asked, "What is this?" Deep inside the dark, shadowy space, there were bodies hanging, arranged in a way that resembled a butcher's slaughterhouse. The people who had been captured explained to him. Every day, they grab people from the nearby areas and bring them here to slaughter. Stepping into the dark, oppressive basement filled with a heavy, eerie atmosphere, Jiang Xiaoyong looked into a corner and understood. This must be why the southern city didn't have any other concentration camps. His face turned pale now, showing clear horror. He asked, "But with so many people killed, can they possibly eat all of this?" A long-haired man, his face full of frustration, answered immediately, "They regularly ship the meat out. We don't know how many people they have in the end." Looking at the pile of bodies scattered around in a heap next to him, Jiang Xiaoyong's anger boiled over as he thought, "I have a rough idea of how many people they have. They definitely can't eat all of this. Could they be raising zombies?" After thinking for a moment, Jiang Xiaoyong turned to ask the man from earlier to explain things in more detail. "You mentioned a real estate office earlier. Can you tell me more about the situation there?" The man immediately responded, "That office is in the south, about a kilometer away from here. The people who are caught are brought there first. The ones who are either eliminated or have been played with until they're no longer useful are then brought here to be slaughtered." Hearing this, Jiang Xiaoyong was shocked by the brutal tactics of these people. He let out a loud exclamation. Just then, a system interface appeared in front of him. The system mission for the version was activated, and the mission details read, "Expand the community. Mission requirements. Do your best to increase the community's rating. Current rating 2. Bonus points 20. Current accumulated points 36. 30 minutes later, at the real estate office in the south, two shadowy figures stood guard outside the building. It was already late at night. One of them, holding a steel baton, cautiously spoke up. "I thought I heard gunshots coming from the north gate earlier." The other, standing behind him with a grim expression, replied, "Ha! They're probably using live people to practice shooting again." Not paying attention, Chen Song suddenly jumped out from behind the two men, landing gracefully in a professional push-up position. All that could be heard now were the frantic screams of the two men from earlier. "Ah, zombies! Ah, shit!" A moment later, in a small empty room inside a real estate office, four girls, stripped of their clothes, sat huddled together. One of them, too exhausted, lay down under a blanket, asleep. The others, hearing noises from outside, looked at each other with frightened and worried faces, their expressions tired and worn. The girl in the red shirt peered outside, hesitantly asking, "What's going on out there?" Meanwhile, the girl lying on the thin mattress, clutching her head in distress, muttered, "I don't like this. They can do whatever they want. Just don't come in here. Don't come in here." At that moment, the door handle moved. Everyone fell silent, watching. The girl, still clutching her head, seemed to have been through so much, her panic growing stronger. "Don't come in here. Don't come in here. Please don't come in here." Fortunately for the four girls, the person who entered was Jiang Xiaoyong. As soon as he stepped in and saw the four girls dressed so poorly, his eyes slightly widened. Looking at the victims trying to shield their bodies, scared and desperate, Jiang Xiaoyong boldly said, "Everyone, get out." And so, our main character led the group out of the real estate office. Beneath their feet lay the lifeless bodies of the bad guys. The girl in the red dress stared wide-eyed as if she couldn't believe how kind Jiang Xiaoyong was. She asked, "Are you really willing to give us a place?" Xiaoyong coldly turned to her and replied, "Yes, I am." Then he lowered his gaze and spoke in a quieter tone. but in return, everyone will have to work. Immediately, both men and women responded positively. They cheerfully said, "No problem, we're all healthy and able." That's right, I'll also do my share of the work." Without missing a beat, Jiang Xiao Yong stepped forward and led the group out through the door. He raised his hand enthusiastically and said, "We can't waste any time. Let's go now." So Jiang Xiao Yong's bus sped back to the base under the quiet night sky. An hour later, they arrived back at the base and everyone got off the bus. Jiang Xiao Yong and Chen Song were there waiting to lead them inside. On the observation deck, Shang Shang and Jiang Zai saw Jiang Xiao Yong and Chen Song returning and were very happy. Shang Shang shouted, "Xiao Yong's back, I'll go open the door." But Chang Zi, a little cautious, said, "Wait, Xiao Yong didn't drive straight in. Let's see what he's up to first." Below, the main character looks straight ahead at the base and says, "That over there is my fortress, but I can't let anyone in just yet." After all they've been through, these people understand him well enough. The man with long hair speaks up, "Life can be cruel. We get it." A woman from a distance asks, "So where are we supposed to go?" Now, Xiao Yong turns around and responds in detail. Next to the fortress are temporary housing and a fence. While it's not as safe as inside the fortress, it's still better than the typical concentration areas. Xiao Yong continues, also the Che Yi City area still has plenty of empty land and abandoned buildings. Over time, we'll start fixing them up and things should improve. The group lowers their heads in gratitude. Speaking together, "We have nothing to give in return for your great kindness, but we thank you deeply, benefactor." The next day, under a bright and sunny sky, two large vehicles enter the gates of the Bitch Tui mountain base. One is a car and the other is a truck loaded with many black plastic bags. They bring these things here using a huge truck, and it's enough to measure in tons. A woman sitting in the car clicks her tongue in annoyance. The woman had dark greenish-black hair, which gave her a very unique, edgy look. She was dressed stylishly, even wearing black fishnet stockings. However, her face was somewhat displeased, and she placed her hand on her hip, speaking in a harsh tone. "Why is no one picking up the phone? What kind of mysterious stunt is that bastard Jiang Qingwen up to this time?" She furrowed her brows and muttered angrily, "Damn, this isn't right." She was accompanied by a tall, muscular man. Together, they walked straight into Jiang Qingwen's room and threw the door open. As soon as she saw what was inside, her expression darkened, and she was momentarily speechless. Inside the locked room were 3 zombies, Lai Shoxian's grotesque creations, and 2 gangsters she had been looking for. A moment earlier, the scent of human flesh had reached the zombies, and they immediately began sniffing around. Lai Shoxian's zombies growled, "Grr!" Without hesitation, the 3 zombies charged forward, completely driven by their hunger for flesh. But this woman wasn't an ordinary person. Standing face to face with such dangerous creatures, she showed no fear. With a simple tap of her hand, the large Lai Shoxiang stumbled and almost fell over. And then came the quick, flashing strikes from the strong woman, the only sound being the desperate screams of the zombies. After a while, she wiped the blood off the carrot she had been using to chop them up, doing it with practiced ease. As she admired the clean carrot in her hand, the man behind her spoke up, "Hey, Jiang Qingwen is dead. What about all this meat?" She lowered her hand, turned around, and replied, "There's nothing else we can do. We'll have to handle it ourselves now." Her expression shifted to one of anger, as if she was furious that her arms had been taken down, making her job harder now. Annoyed, she said, "I want to log off the one who broke our rules." She stepped out into the front yard of the Bitch Tui mountain villa, still holding the carrot and scanning the area around her. There were numerous bodies of Jiang Qingwen's subordinates scattered around. The man following her spoke again. Not a single one of them is alive. But the woman wasn't fazed. She coldly asked, "Where's the meat?" The man answered immediately, "The meat is still intact." She turned around and decisively ordered him, "Bring the truck over and load the goods." Before long, the large truck was started, ready for the next transaction. The guys were busy lifting the goods onto the truck while she stood there, arms crossed, carefully scanning the area to make sure nothing unusual was happening. Suddenly, she noticed something and exclaimed, "Huh?" In a focused stance, she bent down to inspect a tire mark left on the ground. The man behind her curiously asked, "Boss, did you find something?" It seemed like she had figured something out. She squatted down, then boldly and confidently replied, "Huff, I want to see who has the guts to do this." Her lackeys came over to take a look. The scene shifted back to Jiang Xiao Yong's base. He was sitting on a chair on the balcony, enjoying the breeze. Now, Jiang Xiao Yong was focused on reading the system's notification, checking the tasks, expanding the community and the mission requirements, trying to increase his community points. His current score was 2. After reading through it, Jiang Xiao Yong wasn't sure how to proceed, so he muttered to himself, "How do I increase this?" The population must be an important factor. And sat on the observation deck, looking down at the vast expanse of his base and cheerfully said, "There's plenty of land here, haha, all thanks to that damn bastard from before." At that moment, Jiang Xiao Yong's eyes widened and he suddenly said, "Ah, that rare breed." A little while later, he, along with Shang Shang and Jiang Zi, entered the section of the base for those without a home. As soon as the people there saw Jiang Xiao Yong, they joyfully shouted, "Our benefactor! Ah, our benefactor, you're here." A woman, deeply moved, ran up and knelt in front of Jiang Xiao Yong. With her hands pressed together, she cried and said, "Benefactor, thank you so much, thank you." He immediately opened his arms to support her and quickly said, "No need to be so formal." Then he turned to look at the mother and child from before and asked, "The super monster you two mentioned, where exactly did you see it?" The woman looked at him earnestly and immediately answered, "At the Huo Runfa supermarket in the decorated city." She began to recount, "At that time, we were about to enter the supermarket to get supplies when we encountered that monster. Many people were killed by it, and in the panic, everyone scattered. My daughter and I tried to escape and ended up meeting the group at the Bitch Tui Villa. At first, we thought we were saved, but they were truly monsters." Hearing this, it was truly infuriating. Jiang Xiaoyong grimaced, seemingly muttering under his breath, "Kuo Run Fa." Just then, Shang Shang overheard the conversation and, worried, called out to Jiang Xiaoyong, saying, "Xiaoyong, we still have plenty of supplies. We don't need to provoke that monster." Jiang Zi, being more cautious, spoke up, but in the end, he just sat there eating, thinking that the more supplies, the better. Jiang Xiaoyong turned around and said, "The most important thing is that the city is less than 2 kilometers away from us. We can't let a monster like that threaten our safety so close." The two women were still in shock over his plan. The mother dropped the laundry basket she was holding. It fell to the ground. Looking frantic, she rushed over to stop Jiang Xiaoyong, saying, "Benefactor, don't go. That monster kills without a second thought." Jiang Xiaoyong stayed calm and reassured her, "Don't worry, we know what we're doing." He then turned to Jiang Zi and said, "Jiang Zi, call Chen Song. We're going to meet that guy." In a different development, a group of people was heading into a large building. Each of them carried a backpack and some sort of self-defense equipment. Leading the group was a fairly attractive young woman. Standing next to her was a man in a shirt and blazer. He turned to her and said, "I told you, I remember there being a big supermarket around here." Hearing this, the young man standing behind her spoke up, "Don't be too sure. It's possible that someone else already cleaned the place out." The woman chimed in, "Don't be too pessimistic either. We've passed by plenty of supermarkets, and there's still a lot of stuff left." With that, the entire group entered the supermarket. Hoping to find supplies, the woman, sounding fairly confident, added, "With our courage and skills, it's not easy for anyone to move around freely in the apocalypse like we do." Ha ha! As they all stepped inside, they were taken aback by the emptiness. It was pitch dark and completely silent. The food stalls are all empty, but scattered around in a few corners, there are some leftover items. They exclaim, "Ha!" Even though it's been searched, it still hasn't been completely cleared out. Now the woman bangs the frying pan against the wall, making a loud noise in the empty space. The group huddles together, each person holding something to defend themselves. The girl shouts, "Is anyone there?" It's obvious from her posture that she's experienced in fighting zombies. She doesn't rush into action. Instead, she lowers her head and observes for a moment. Just a few minutes later, the sound of hurried footsteps echoes from all directions in the shopping mall. A crowd of zombies pours out, howling loudly. The zombies, with their ragged clothes and pale, sickly faces, rush toward the group. In a panic, the people scream, "They're here." It's the crazy zombies. Then comes the sound of fighting between the humans and zombies. Stay alert. Be careful when you go in. Thud, thud, ugh. In the end, the zombies fall to the ground. The group, however, is unharmed. The beautiful girl smiles confidently and says, "Ha ha, that was as easy as pie." A young man with a backpack on his shoulder looked down at the terrifying corpses and said, "There are zombies, but not many. The bodies must have been dragged away by the group that came before." A guy behind him crawled forward, happily saying, "Today it's like we hit the jackpot." The man in the shirt and blazer wasn't celebrating just yet. He reminded everyone, "Stay alert, keep moving forward." The group didn't pay attention, and suddenly, a dark figure, a zombie variant, stepped out from a doorway. This zombie, with its dark face in the shadows, emerged. It bared its white shark teeth, and its eyes flickered with sparks of electricity. It growled menacingly. This one could even talk. Prey. Fresh prey. At that moment, the group was still excited, focused on the remaining supplies on the counters. They eagerly pointed and happily said, This. Oh, it's like a holiday. Grab everything. We can live off this stuff for years. The beautiful girl with a bright face pointed in one direction and shouted, "Look!" What excited her was a high-end bed. While pointing and admiring it, she said loudly, "A bed? It's a bed. A soft bed." Without thinking, she fell onto it, clearly enjoying the moment, then exclaimed, "I don't care. I want to stay here." Now everyone was excited and cheering. They happily said to each other, "Maybe we should just settle here. It's not a bad idea." A man in a shirt and blazer turned to the young guy with the backpack and said, "I'm going to step outside for a smoke." The young guy replied, "Let's go together." A moment later, the man flicked his lighter and the flame flared up. He took a long drag from his cigarette, exhaled, and looked up at the sky. The young guy stood off to the side, holding his own cigarette, and turned to ask, "So, what do you think? Are we really staying here?" The man hesitated for a moment and then replied, "There are too many exits in this shopping center. It's hard to defend, and there's a lot of supplies, so it's easy for others to eye it. Everything still seems pretty normal," he continued. "But when we got here, I noticed a 2-story building over there. It looked pretty good. We just stopped, but something feels off." Suddenly, out of nowhere, a blood-stained blade appeared, pressed against his collar. Before he could react, the sound of a knife slicing through flesh immediately followed, and a streak of blood sprayed in front of the young man with the backpack. He watched helplessly as his teammate sacrificed himself right in front of him. Stunned, he couldn't even speak. The zombie variation had been closely observing the two of them. It lifted the dying man and said, "Smooth skin, this should taste really good." Ha ha! The scene was so horrific that the young man could barely stand, nearly collapsing in shock. Panicking, he immediately turned and ran for his life, screaming at the top of his lungs, "Help! Help! There's a monster!" The others inside, busy collecting supplies, heard his desperate cries and turned to ask, "What's going on?" The young man thought he was about to make it to his teammates, but the zombie variation kept throwing knife after knife into his body. Poor guy, he didn't even have time to say anything, only able to cough a few final weak breaths. Cough. Cough. A terrifying scene unfolded before everyone's eyes. The zombie suddenly lifted the young man into the air and his backpack fell to the ground. It snarled fiercely, grinding its teeth. Then with a burst of strength, it split the young man in half under the dim light. The sight was gruesome and horrifying. The beautiful girl leading the group was speechless, stammering, "What? What is that?" She immediately shouted for everyone to retreat. "Quick, get out of here." Her footsteps were shaky as she ran, desperately trying to escape. The massive zombie leaped high into the air, raising its sharp arm and screamed, "You can't escape, not a single one of you." It laughed maniacally. Everyone was terrified, scrambling in all directions, trying to find a way out. Unfortunately, a smaller girl running at the back was struck directly in the chest by the enormous zombie's hand, the sharp claws ripping through her from behind. The entire group was in a panic, running as fast as they could. The beautiful girl at the front pushed herself harder, screaming in terror, "Ah, no, I don't want to die." They kept running, not stopping, until the young man who had been close behind her finally collapsed, coughing up blood from the attack by the mutated zombie. She managed to run out of the big supermarket, and as soon as she saw the sunlight, she realized she was the only one left. Thinking that her teammates were still behind her, she yelled to warn everyone the exit is just ahead. Her voice echoed in panic. "Ah, ah, ah." She finally reached the door and collapsed, exhausted, gasping for air. When she looked up, there it was, the dark shadow of a vicious zombie variation. Fear was clearly written across her face. With gritted teeth and tears streaming down her face, all she could do was scream, "Ah, ah." Facing a huge monster in front of her, she cried out loudly, her tears running down her cheeks. She stretched out both arms in defense, but had no idea how to fight back, only able to scream, "Ah, ah, ha." It seemed like her short life was about to end, but just then, a powerful figure stepped into the light from the supermarket door. The silhouette of Shensong, a heroic zombie hunter, appeared. He looked like a savior, while the terrified girl in front of him, still caught in her fear, screamed, "Ah, I don't want to die." Shensong coldly and decisively walked past her, not even bothering to glance her way. The girl stood there in a daze, wondering to herself, did he just walk past me? Before she could make sense of anything, Xiao Yong's voice rang out, "Don't be scared." Shaking with fear, she quickly turned around to look. Jiang Xiao Yong and Jiang Zai had just entered. The two of them appeared suddenly, catching her off guard. You are. Xiao Yong's expression was warm and friendly. He extended his hand toward the girl and said, "I'm the one who bought the house." Do you remember Xiao Ning, the saleswoman from the first part, who sold land to Xiao Yong? The male lead gently helped Xiao Ning to her feet and calmly added, "You're the realtor, right?" He scratched his face, trying to recall that day. "I think your name was Ning Wan Wan, wasn't it?" Meanwhile, on the other side, there were loud sounds of combat, bang, bang, pow, pow, as Chen Song fought against the large, dangerous zombies. Poor Xiao Ning, still haunted by the psychological trauma, was not able to escape it. She started banging her head and shouting, "Ah, a monster! Is that a monster? There's a monster in the mall. Run!" Jiang Xiao Yong gently reassured her, "It's okay. It's been stopped." Hearing this, Xiao Ning slowly turned her face to look behind her. Although she was still a bit scared, her eyes widened in complete surprise at the scene in front of her. Chen Song faced off against the monstrous zombie that had just slaughtered her teammates. The creature struck Shen Song with a powerful blow, then sneered at him and gleefully said, "You? Ha ha, you want to eat alone, huh?" Meanwhile, from a distance, Jiang Xiaoyong called out to check on the situation. "Shen Song, can you handle it on your own?" Shen Song glared coldly at him, then replied with a measured tone, "Let me try first." Just as the monster closed in on him, it suddenly jumped back, quickly retreating. This unexpected speed caught Shen Song off guard for a moment. The creature stuck out its long tongue and crouched down low, getting as close to the ground as possible. Its posture was unsettling, and it seemed almost thrilled, as if meeting another of its kind for the first time. Ha ha ha! This feels so good. With that, the zombie leaped toward Shen Song, building momentum for its next attack. Despite the creature's imposing presence, Shen Song remained calm, carefully watching its movements. In an instant, the zombie struck with a powerful downward blow just inches from Shen Song's lower back. He quickly jumped back, narrowly avoiding the hit. The zombie's eyes kept glowing brighter and brighter with a red hue. It was in control, so it was incredibly arrogant, constantly taunting Shen Song's zombies. "Ha ha! I wonder if eating each other will help us evolve faster? Ha ha!" It was about to make another move, but before it could, it heard the sound of wind rushing by. Shen Song's fist had already slammed into the monster's face without warning. It stared with wide eyes and let out a loud yelp. Back in real time, Shen Song quickly delivered a fatal blow, causing the creature to crash to the ground, its head hitting hard. He jumped high into the air, and when he punched down, the force was unbelievable. No one expected Shen Song to be this strong. The creature lifted its hideous face from the ground, its voice now low and angry. "Damn it. Humph, you actually have some strength." Not letting the trash talk go on for another second, Chen Song delivered a high kick, finishing it off with a crushing blow to put an end to it. From above, Chen Song's powerful strike landed like a devastating blow to the massive monster, sending a shockwave that knocked several debris pieces off the floor. Things were going too smoothly. Chen Song glanced around carefully, realizing a monster wasn't so easy to deal with. It had escaped to the ceiling right above him, narrowly dodging his kick. Hanging from the ceiling, the monster seethed with rage. Its teeth clashed together with a sharp, eerie sound. High-pitched, screeching noises buzzed in the air. Then it let out a loud, mocking laugh and said, "I've been building up strength, preparing for this hunt. Now I've got the perfect chance to use it. Ha ha ha." After hearing this, Chen Song felt a surge of energy rush past him like a gust of wind. He opened his eyes wide. Assessing the monster's attack position, he quickly turned around and saw the creature grinning from ear to ear, showing off its sharp teeth while letting out a loud, mocking laugh. Ha 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 ha! Boom, boom, boom. The rapid and dangerous clashes between them intensified in the heart of the shopping mall. Zhang Zi watched his friend fight, feeling worried, and shouted, "Xiaoyong, Chen Song is being overpowered. How is this monster so strong?" Jiang Xiaoyong, his face tense, assessed the situation. He thought to himself that it was better to deal with the creature now, because if they let it go to hunt for longer, it would definitely become a serious problem. With that, he pulled out an AK from the system. Xiao Ning, standing behind, was stunned by this trick and exclaimed, "What's going on?" Did the gun just appear out of thin air? With calm precision, Jiang Xiaoyong closed one eye to line up the sights of the gun and spoke up, "Chen Song, if you can hold it for just 1 second, I won't tease you anymore." Struggling with the monster, Chen Song grabbed both of its hands to hold it back. The zombie-like creature yelled angrily, "Damn it, let go of me." Exactly 1 second later, as Jiang Xiaoyong had asked, bang, he fired a shot. The bullet hit the creature's forehead and it grimaced in pain, its already torn face twisting in agony. The giant zombie monster staggered, nearly falling backward. It took slow, heavy steps, letting out painful screams. Rare. It tried to fight back, scraping its feet against the ground to keep its balance. Blood kept pouring from the gaping hole in its forehead, leaving dark streaks on its face. Its eyes were filled with rage as it howled. "Ah, ah, it hurts so much. You bastard. How dare you hurt me? Ha ha, I'm going to kill you. I'm going to tear you apart. Ha ha." Jiang Zi watched this scene, constantly muttering in confusion. A blow to the brain and it still won't die. That's nothing. Jiang Xiao Yong continued to give the monster more sweet treats, relentlessly aiming at it. Boom, 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 boom. The huge body of the zombie acted like a shield, taking all the hits and leaving holes all over its muscular form. It howled in madness. Then the sound of gunshots echoed throughout the supermarket. Boom, boom, boom. A little while later, Chen Song, Jiang Xiaoyong, Jiang Zi, and Xiao Ning stood looking at the body, now twitching in a pool of blood on the floor, no longer making any sounds. Finally, Jiang Zi asked, "Is it dead yet?" Jiang Xiaoyong turned around and seriously ordered Chen Song, "Try eating this monster. It might increase your strength." Chen Song thought the same and nodded in agreement. Yeah, human meat, after all. Suddenly, the system's interface popped up with a mission update expanding the area and requesting that the mission progress be pushed forward while eliminating any potential dangers. Area evaluation increased by 1, the current score was 3 and accumulated rewards, 10 total accumulated, 46 points. Jiang Xiaoyong was a bit surprised and looked on, saying, "Oh, so it counts for that?" His interest piqued. Jiang Xiaoyong smiled broadly and added, "Since we're here, let's make the most of it. Let's see if we can clean out the whole supermarket." Xiao Ning, who had been behind him, asked in shock, "Huh? Clean out the whole thing?" Xiaoyong pointed upward, where strange streams of spiritual energy swirled, forming a small vortex. It started sucking up all the remaining items in the supermarket. Xiao Ning stared wide-eyed and confused, while Zhang Zi, hands on her hips, excitedly exclaimed, "Wow, that's incredible. What kind of magic is that?" After everything was sucked into the space ring, Jiang Xiaoyong turned to the bodies of Xiao Ning's teammates and said, "Leave these corpses for the zombies." Then he called out to Chen Song, "Are you done? Let's go." The scene shifted to another location. The white car belonging to the female leader of the Bitch Fui faction suddenly screeched to a halt on a main road near Xiaoyong's base. A man's voice came from inside the car, shouting loudly, "Wait, stop here." Inside the vehicle, she glanced over and asked the man who was observing through binoculars, "What's going on?" In his line of sight was Shang, standing on the observation tower. She was fully focused on her task. He turned his attention back to the area where Jiang Xiaoyong had gathered the survivors. There were quite a few people moving around. With a pleased grin, he turned to the woman and said, "There's a lot of people, but their weapons are outdated. The only advantage they have is the workshop house. It's solid and well built." Someone sitting in the front seat also spoke up, asking, "Then how did they manage to take down Zhang Qingwen and Lin Guangkai?" She, the big sister, responded with her own analysis. "Isn't it obvious? They ambushed them and let the zombies loose. I told them before, using a villa as a base wouldn't be safe." Then she leaned back in her chair, her mood noticeably brighter now that there were survivors. Pushing herself up, she chuckled and said, "Ha ha, looks like God saw how hard we were working and decided to send us both bait and a base." The man with the binoculars above also responded with a grin. "Exactly. It makes me feel a little guilty. Ha ha." Above, the driver's sharp face asked, "So, what's the plan now? How do we move forward?" The woman calmly rested her hand on the window, taking in the sight of the well-organized base, and said, "No, let's go back and get things set up first. Then we'll bring in the gang and weapons." Immediately, their white car turned around and sped back. Cut to Jiang Xiaoyong and Jiang Zi's group. Xiaoyong's car was speeding down the road. Inside the car, Xiao Ning was thrilled to be taken in, bouncing in her seat and exclaiming, "Really?" Jiang Zi replied with a grin, "Of course. Not just a mattress, but hot water for a shower too." Hearing that, Xiao Ning couldn't contain her excitement, shouting, "Oh yeah." Suddenly, Jiang Xiaoyong noticed something strange up ahead and squinted to get a better look. "Everyone stay alert. There are people ahead. Weapons ready." Xiao Ning and Jiang Zi, who had been relaxed, quickly shifted into a defensive stance. Both of them glanced forward, a little uneasy. Without saying a word, Jiang Zi swiftly grabbed his AK, then leaned his head out the window to observe. It was a white car speeding past them in the opposite direction. Passengers from the Bitch Toy Mountains rushing back in a hurry. In the moment where the two cars passed each other, Jiang Xiaoyong squinted and glanced through the car window to see what was going on the other side. Coincidentally, the big sister on this side was also paying attention to the actions of the car Jiang Xiaoyong was driving. Their suspicious glances met, two rivals encountering each other. At that moment, the system interface appeared. Ting ting, a new mission. The system screen popped up in front of Jiang Xiaoyong. New mission, punish the evil. Mission requirements, fight against the invaders. Reward, 50 points. After reading it, Jiang Xiaoyong felt a bit curious and muttered, "Fight against the invaders, huh? Thinking about the woman he had just crossed paths with on the main road, Jiang Xiao Yong looked out the window and wondered, could it be those people? A while later, the male lead's car arrived back at the base. Looking up at the observation tower high above, the male lead planned to head up there to assess the situation. Today was Shang's shift. Jiang Xiaoyong asked her, did any strangers appear around here earlier? Based on the recent activity, Shang noticed it too. She pointed in that direction and reported, I think I saw a car passing by in the distance, but it's not coming towards us. At first, I thought you guys had come back, but you seemed a bit confused. Shang continued, what's going on? Is there something wrong with Xiaoyong? There was a sense of something definitely being off. Jiang Xiaoyong's face changed immediately, and he told Jiang Zi and Mr. Lai to call everyone together. I have something important to discuss. 30 minutes later, at the coal factory in the southern outskirts, a man was scanning for a signal on a walkie-talkie. The device was continuously beeping, and the man was leading a group of people. He was trying hard to hear the signals coming through the walkie-talkie. Survivors come to the coal factory in the southern outskirts. We've set up a gathering area here, and we're sure on staff. Among the group, a young man in a yellow shirt stood at the back, scratching his head and looking around, saying, it should be close by. From this direction, a luxury car approached the group. The young man excitedly waved his hand high and shouted, it's a car, survivors. That's awesome. Several people stepped forward, signaling for the car to stop, with dust flying everywhere. It was Big Sister's group. The three of them opened the car doors and stepped out calmly. Upon seeing the new arrivals, she asked, did you come because of the radio signal? The young man in the yellow shirt quickly responded, yes. In these times, women are both respected and rare. The first thing the men notice about Big Sister is her confident presence and stylish appearance. Her carefully chosen outfit and elegant accessories sway as she approaches the group. Big Sister understands how to make an impression. With a calm and persuasive tone, she says, you've arrived at just the right moment. Come with us. The men exchange excited glances, clearly intrigued. The man in the yellow shirt, visibly flustered, responds gratefully, thank you, really thank you. She adds smoothly, it's not far. The car's already full, so we'll walk the rest of the way. The group leader nods enthusiastically. Sounds good. As they walk, the man in yellow shares a knowing look with his companion, clearly thinking ahead, though unaware that they're not as in control as they think. Soon, Big Sister leads them to a large warehouse. The group is ushered inside via an escalator, taking them to a higher floor to meet the others. The man in yellow looks around in awe and says, this place is massive. Since everything collapsed, we haven't seen anything like this. He continues, impressed, finally some space to breathe. Then, a little sheepishly, he scratches his cheek and says, actually, I need to step out for a minute. Got to take care of something. Big Sister gestures with a smile. No need to go outside. There's a restroom inside. I'll show you. The man in yellow nods, a bit embarrassed. All right, thanks. The yellow-clad man's weak stream of urine trickled as he entered the bathroom. His smile was shy, almost awkward. He glanced over his shoulder with a sly, intrigued look on his face. Quickly, the man in yellow rolled up his pants, rustling the fabric. He hadn't even bothered to button them back up, and instead, he turned around to proudly show off his red underwear to Big Sister. His face wore a twisted, almost perverted expression. Yeah, I know what you're thinking, he said with a sly grin. Come on, don't be shy. She stood there, arms crossed, silent. He spoke up again. Big brother here is really strong, you know. Suddenly, there was a horrifying scream, followed by the sound of metal slicing through flesh. The man's eyes widened in shock. He hadn't expected this move at all. Ah. Big Sister, with an emotionless face, drove a carrot straight through the man's throat. Her cold, merciless demeanor showed just how ruthless and cruel she truly was. The man's head dropped, his mind still caught in disbelief, as he collapsed in front of her long, slender legs covered in fishnet stockings. His luck had run out. In his final moments, he would be met with nothing but her scornful eyes. Thought you were something special. Turns out you're just this pathetic, she said, her voice dripping with contempt. The carrot in her hand was still covered in blood, but she calmly walked out as though nothing had happened. Her underling, clearly pleased, asked, Big Sister, is it all done? Big Sister, strolling over nonchalantly, responded with an almost casual tone. Oh, bring that guy from the bathroom out here too. After walking past the still warm bodies of the group from earlier, she paused to look at them for a moment, then gave another order to her subordinate, also calling for the other two to join her. Meanwhile, at Jiang Xiao Yong's base, he was gathering everyone who had previously assisted him to discuss a plan. It was rare for everyone to be summoned all at once like this. Mr. Lai asked, Xiao Yong, is someone targeting us? Who are they? Jiang Xiao Yong explained clearly, We don't know anything about our enemy yet, but from now on, we'll be at risk of attacks every day. With that, Jiang Xiao Yong gave instructions to Zhang Zi and Shen Song. You two will come with me later. We need to clear out the abandoned building to the southeast so that the refugees can move in temporarily. Otherwise, if the enemy attacks, they'll all be sitting ducks. Shang and the chubby boy Xiao Kai were also brave. Noticing that Jiang Xiao Yong hadn't assigned them much, they volunteered. Shang said, Xiao Yong, I'm going too. Xiao Kai added, me too. Even the two men in protective gear from Mr. Li's team spoke up in unison, we'll go as well. By this point, many others, including women and children, were all determined to protect the base. Chang Chengji's young son quickly raised his hand and said, then I want to go too. Chang Chengji's wife immediately scolded him, you little rascal, why are you trying to get involved? This surprised Xiao Ning as well. At that moment, Xiao Ning felt a bit scared. She still raised her hand and said, given the atmosphere, I think I should go too. Jiang Xiao Yong was deeply moved by everyone's spirit. He frankly assessed the situation and said, it shouldn't be too dangerous over there. Let Mr. Han and Mr. Lai stay behind and guard the base. Everyone else can join in. In no time, the plan was set. Jiang Xiao Yong took the lead, followed by the many people he had saved, each of them carrying some sort of weapon. They moved toward a tall building, forming a group that was as large as a small squad, buzzing with activity in front. It was time for everyone to take action and start dealing with the zombies. Jiang Xiao Yong led the charge, firing the first shots directly at the zombies, signaling the others to follow. Many joined forces using knives and guns. Chen Song, using only his bare hands, gave everything he had to take down each zombie one by one. After a chaotic and exhausting battle, all the zombies were eliminated and lay scattered on the ground. Everyone was out of breath, completely wiped out. Jiang Xiao Yong didn't forget to check on everyone. Is anyone hurt? Double check. The group responded, no, we're fine. Jiang Xiao Yong moved closer to the empty window and looked out at the base, noticing the opposing group's smokestacks in action. He turned around and carefully reminded everyone, there will be an attack in the next few days. You all stay here for now. Hearing this, the woman and a guy who had been saved by Xiao Yong earlier confidently said to him, we can fight. That's right, we'd help too. He understood their determination, but still slowly stroked his chin, thinking it over before responding. Oh no, all right then. At that moment, Jiang Xiao Yong gave the guy a task. All right, you guys clean up this area first. I'll bring the handgun and ammo later. When the enemy attacks, we'll communicate through the walkie-talkie. Make sure to follow my orders. The guy clenched his fist and quickly replied, got it, no problem. The scene shifted to the bad guys group, where the woman was casually standing with her arms crossed, watching her soldiers work hard. One of them called out, how's it going, big sister? She turned slightly and gave a quick glance. A thin guy standing nearby stuffed his hands in his pockets and asked, so, is everything going smoothly? Behind them, a tall guy with long hair, looking like he was in his teenage years, muttered, human meat, eat human meat. She stood there, hands on her hips, glaring directly at the two men. What do you mean smooth sailing? The Bitch Fly mountain area has been destroyed, and from now on, we'll have to handle food on our own. The skinny guy, clearly frustrated, asked, what? Who did this? The tall guy behind him suddenly shouted, no more human meat. If we can't get any human meat, I'm not happy at all. Big Sister then started stirring things up, trying to incite hatred toward Jiang Xiao Yong's group. It was a group of people from the east. They weren't a small number. Tomorrow morning, a few of us will lead people to take care of them and clear them out. The scene shifts back to Jiang Xiao Yong's base. In his private room, the lights were on and his voice could be heard saying, 46 points of accumulated credit. Let's see if the system offers any new boxes. The system interface in front of him displayed, supply box for level 2 mutant abilities costs 25 points. Supply box for post-apocalyptic cultivators level 2 costs 15 points. Supply box for oil and protein supplies level 1 costs 5 points. Manual refresh costs 2 points. Jiang Xiao Yong leaned back on his bed, happily clicking to make a selection and said, finally, some new items. Jiang Xiao Yong excitedly tapped on the system interface and exclaimed, oh, this time there are 2 level 2 boxes, totaling 40 points. Let's see what's in store. He quickly opened the system panel and his physical abilities exceeded level 1. His traits and attributes increased by 25%. After the effect ended, he would enter a weakened state. A wisp of smoke appeared after the system notification, signaling that his body had fully accepted the new attributes. This reward was definitely worth it for him. Xiao Yong's face lit up with joy as he said, oh, a 25% enhancement. Now I have 33 energy points. With a 25% boost, that puts me over 40 points, which is like having 8 times the strength of an average person. He shouted excitedly, flexing his arm and looking down, his voice full of energy and impatience as he couldn't wait to test his new strength right away. Cut to the outside street where a long trail of smoke followed, accompanied by the loud screech of a car's brakes. Here's the translated text in clear and natural American English. Mr. Lai immediately narrowed his eyes and asked in surprise, "So what for?" Jiang Xiao Yong just smiled lightly and looked off into the distance. Then he calmly looked at Mr. Lai and said, "I remember you mentioned a few years ago that you used to be a sniper, right?" When the topic of sniping came up, Mr. Lai got a little embarrassed. He scratched his head and replied, "You got it wrong. I wasn't doing it for years, just for a few months. I learned a few things. Back then, I temporarily took over for someone else, so I just reported some fake information." Even so, Xiao Yong still trusted Mr. Lai because he had seen him handle a gun really well before. He pressed on with the question, "So, at a distance of 100 to 200 meters, are you accurate?" Mr. Lai was very confident. He laughed loudly, patted his chest, and said in front of Jiang Xiao, "Ha ha, now you're underestimating me. As long as there's no strong wind, I can hit anything within 500 meters, no problem." Xiao nodded, grinning with a dangerous look in his eyes, and then gave Mr. Lai a knowing look. He spoke cryptically, hinting at the upcoming battle. That's good enough. Just then, a voice called out from Zhang Zi, "Hey, Xiao, the stuff you asked for is here." Zhang Zi huffed and puffed as he arrived, sweating heavily. "Mom, what is this? It's so heavy." Jiang Xiao and Mr. Lai turned around and placed the wooden box on the ground. Jiang Zi leaned on his knees, breathing hard. As soon as Jiang Xiao saw it, he started inspecting the box, while Mr. Lai looked a bit confused and asked, What is this?" Jiang Xiao opened the wooden box, revealing a high-end sniper rifle. Seeing it laid out in front of him, Mr. Lai was shocked. He gasped, "A sniper rifle." Just a second ago, he had asked about it, and now it was right there in front of him. Mr. Lai broke into a cold sweat and asked, "Goodness, Xiao, this is something not just anyone can get. Where did you get this from?" Jiang Xiao remained calm, knowing full well what it was and not feeling the need to rush. He smiled slightly, then replied, "We only have 2 boxes of ammo, 10 rounds in total. Use them sparingly." Holding the sniper rifle in its hands, Mr. Lai couldn't believe it. This was something he had dreamed about since his days in the military. He kept murmuring, still in disbelief, I understand. Wow." Once everything was settled, Xiao turned to Zhang Zi and asked, "Are the others in position?" Zhang Zi responded seriously, "They're in position." Jiang Xiao nodded in approval and reminded everyone, "Good. Make sure everyone stays alert. The enemy could show up at any moment." At the observation post of Shang, she was trying to adjust the signal on her headset and discovered something. Hello, unusual activity detected." There was a crackling response from the other end. Message received. At that moment, Mr. Lai was getting into position. He rested the gun on the railing and lay down to take aim. Mr. Lai was also exchanging information with Shang. "I've noticed it too." The voice on the other end reported, "The enemy is armed. Prepare accordingly." Outside the Xiaoyang base, Big Sister's people were still in the vehicle, not yet getting out. Her subordinate was using binoculars to scan the area. He found no one and, puzzled, said, "Strange, where did all the refugees at the fence go? Don't tell them they've already been taken away and butchered for food." The driver sitting in the front seat spoke up, "Maybe we should stop and observe for a while. Things don't seem to be going smoothly as we thought." Big Sister leaned her face closer to the front seat, speaking in a low, harsh tone. "No, we go in directly. We're close enough now. If we're spotted and they get the chance to strike back, it won't be easy to attack again." Her subordinate immediately responded serious and clear. They thought they were operating secretly without anyone noticing. Little did they know their convoy was being closely watched, and Shang was reporting their every move. A collective attack on the wall, find cover. It was the right person at the right time. Following Jiang Xiaoyang's instructions, Shang focused and reported to the sniper team. "The enemy is within range, open fire." On the upper floor of the base, several men from Xiaoyang's team were assigned to aim and shoot at the targets that were being reported. Each of them held a weapon, working together with great coordination. Bang, 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 bang. Big Sister's team below was quickly caught in a fierce barrage of bullets. The ground was soon covered in sparks from the gunfire. The convoy kept pushing forward, trying to escape at full speed, but with every move, more bullets hit them. Inside one of the bad guys' cars, the driver was hit twice in the chest. In pain and panic, he yelled, "Ah, it hurts so much." Immediately, the car lost control and swerved in front of the others, blocking the vehicles behind. The car continued its momentum, crashing off the road into a row of trees. The impact caused the tires to burst and fly into the air. Xiao Yong's team successfully eliminated one target. Big Sister, safe inside another vehicle, was furious when she saw her side suffering heavy losses. She clenched her teeth, looking angry and frustrated. Dan, how did this happen? What are we supposed to do now? She muttered. The convoy had no choice but to slow down, and as they did, the gunfire grew even more intense. They swerved wildly to try to avoid getting hit, but it seemed like it was all in vain. The people inside the vehicle radioed to everyone, "Keep pushing forward. There's a hidden spot beneath the wall." After what felt like forever, they finally crawled up to the gates of Xiaodong's base. They quickly slowed down and came to a stop. A large, rough foot stomped hard on the ground. The person was thirsty for blood. He was the giant who enjoyed eating humans. Holding a large chainsaw, he flipped the switch and the saw roared to life. He shouted with a booming voice, "Kill! Kill! Kill!" Using the chainsaw to break through the door, the massive man swung it back and forth, cutting through the door in a long, deep gash. From the observation tower above, Shang saw the filthy man trying to break in and screamed, "Oh my god, there's a freak trying to break the door." He's gritting his teeth and squinting, doing everything he can to break through. Everyone's attention was focused on the tall guy. Shang started rallying the group. Keep firing, don't stop." Immediately, everyone shifted their aim, targeting the ground below. Their Big Sister and her gang also peeked out from behind the vehicle, all of them taking cover under the car and waiting for the right moment to return fire. The deafening sound of gunfire filled the air, and the strong smell of gunpowder was overwhelming. She shouted, "Return fire and suppress them. Cover him." Up top, Shang and another teammate barely avoided several bullets, which made them panic. They trembled in fear from the enemy's return fire. For a high school student facing off against a notorious gang, it was really tough for her. Jiang Xiao's group, which was also attacking from this side, was affected as well. Xiao Kai took a bullet straight to the shoulder. Jiang Zi looked over at his friend, worried, and shouted, "Xiao Kai." Then he quickly dragged Xiao Kai back inside. He turned to remind everyone, they've got submachine guns too. Their firepower isn't far behind ours. Everyone did their best to hold their ground, making sure to reload in time. At the top corner, Zixuan's father was also struggling against the heavy gunfire coming from below. He turned around, alert, and tried to rally everyone. "Don't be afraid, hold on. We got plenty of ammo." With his extensive experience, Mr. Han quickly figured out their plan. He turned and said to the nearby teammates, making sure they could hear him, "They're trying to break through the door." A man lying next to him chimed in, "If they break the door, we'll be at a disadvantage. We're still watching the team, trying to hold our ground." Meanwhile, Jiang Xiao Yong was in a different spot. He spoke into his earpiece, reassuring everyone, "Don't worry, I've got it all figured out." It turned out that the reason the main character hadn't appeared earlier was because he had a battle plan. As everyone's attention was focused elsewhere, Jiang Xiao Yong quietly opened his side door and slipped out. He sprinted toward the observation tower, his footsteps rapid and silent, unnoticed by anyone. Over with Big Sister's group, after a long exchange of gunfire with Xiao Yong's gang, a nervous underling rushed up to report, "We've only got half of our ammo left." Looking toward the tall guy who was still struggling to break the door, Big Sister shouted impatiently, "Dan, are you not done yet?" He was still struggling with a reinforced steel door that Xiao Yong had carefully prepared, nearly losing his patience as he angrily shouted, Yeah, almost done." Boom! A loud explosion echoed, and a bright burst of flames followed by thick smoke erupted from behind the door. The loud noise caused the group above to panic and rush downstairs. Shang shouted loudly to alert everyone. "The door has been breached. Reinforcements to the door, don't let them in." Big Sister was thrilled. Now her face began to take on a sinister, almost demonic look. With a wide, wicked grin and eyes full of cruel delight, she chuckled and said, shaking with satisfaction, "Ha! Now you'll see what true terror from an evolved human looks like." She's using an evolved zombie as a shield. Turning around, she waved her hand to signal her followers. "Let's go!" Hide behind the old man. Once inside, they immediately began to push forward, providing backup. Xiao Yong's base door had truly been destroyed. The massive evolved zombie reached in, ready to smash the door further. The smoke poured out. Jiang Xiao Yong successfully made his way to the nearby observation platform. He spoke into his headset, "Alert Mr. Lai, get ready to follow my lead." Up top, Mr. Lai had been on standby the entire time, just waiting for the right moment to act. Lad Wang Lai listened carefully to Xiao Yong's instructions. "Do you see the biggest guy in the group?" Through the scope, Mr. Lai focused his eyes on the chest of the giant, evolved zombie charging forward. I see him, Xiao Yong confirmed. The giant, muscle-bound man who craved human flesh continued to roar, his mouth wide open, teeth bared, growling like he completely lost his mind. Back on the ground, Mr. Han and his two teammates were drenched in sweat. They stared in terror at the creature before them, almost in disbelief. The man standing behind them, not blinking for a second, whispered, Is that even human? The old man stepped forward, moving confidently with each stride. He positioned himself in front to shield the others from incoming fire. Mr. Han and the others fired relentlessly at the creature's muscular body. Despite hitting it with several bullets, it had no effect. To the creature, it was like being attacked by a swarm of ants. The giant glared angrily, letting out a long, menacing breath. He took a deep, forceful inhale, ready to strike back. Pay attention to the bullet lodged in this person's skin. The skin is so thick that even a regular bullet can't penetrate it. What's more, many bullet wounds can heal on their own. Mr. Han was utterly surprised. He saw this and hesitated before shouting, What? He can heal his wounds on his own. Behind the evolved zombies, Big Sister stood right at his back. She was grinning smugly, proud of her fighting chicken, and said loudly with a sneer, Humph, you're all shocked, huh? Is this the first time you've seen an evolved person? Up high, Mr. Lai was waiting with his sniper rifle, looking through the scope. In his ear, Mr. Han quickly reported, Careful, that big idiot has self-healing abilities. Your guns won't be able to kill him. Mr. Lai stayed focused on his target and replied, Let's see about this. With that, he took a shot. The bullet erupted from the rifle with a fiery blast, and the impact was so powerful, it shook the ground. The upper part of the evolved man's body caved in, and in an instant, his head was nowhere to be seen. Immediately, the massive, towering figure collapsed to the ground, shaking the area with a strong tremor as rocks and dust were thrown into the air. The huge shield of the Big Sister's Groot was destroyed. Now their faces were filled with panic. The long-bearded henchmen stared wide-eyed and yelled, What's going on? How could this happen? Big Sister's face, no longer as arrogant as just a few minutes ago, was now drenched in cold sweat. She squinted, stammering, I can't believe these people have such powerful weapons. How is this possible? While still struggling with one of her team members, she didn't notice that Jiang Xiao Yong had already raised his gun and aimed it at their group from behind. The next moment, he opened fire with a rapid burst toward Big Sister. Hearing the gunfire and being attacked unexpectedly, the people behind her panicked and turned to grab their own weapons in defense. Big Sister, startled, spun around, only to realize what was happening and angrily shouted, There's an enemy behind us. We're surrounded. Now it's too late to realize. Big Sister glared at Jiang Xiao Yong. She was actually the one who had started the trouble first, but now she was making a face full of resentment. It was so annoying. These scoundrels, they had miscalculated. We underestimated these guys. When pushed into a corner, they had no choice but to fight back. Big Sister aimed her gun, running at full speed, firing while shouting orders, retreat, fall back to the car. A few people behind her were hit, blood spraying out. As they got closer, Big Sister saw the handsome face of the man in question, her face twisted in anger. Her teeth gritted as she glared at him. Through clenched teeth, she muttered, That's him. Then she remembered Jiang Xiao Yong. They had crossed paths before. Her voice was frantic and surprised as she said, He's the guy from the car that time. Jiang Xiao Yong calmly held his gun, aiming at his target. His expression was cold as he shot her a glare. Suddenly, Big Sister grabbed one of her underlings by the shoulder, her grip tight enough to make the person stumble and fall forward. Before they could even process what had happened, she used her own person as a shield, successfully getting the unlucky man shot in her place. Without a hint of emotion, this cold-hearted woman stood tall, still glaring at the male lead. Watching Big Sister's quick actions, Jiang Xiao Yong couldn't help but feel a bit cautious. He frowned in suspicion, wondering, she's really fast to react. Could she be an evolved person too? As soon as she finished speaking, Big Sister immediately threw the dead body, the one from earlier, right at Jiang Xiao Yong. The woman, though small, was incredibly strong. She threw it with just one hand. Jiang Xiao Yong quickly dodged to the side, and the body slammed hard onto the ground. The henchman lay motionless. Jiang Xiao Yong took up a defensive stance, turning to look at the body. He had barely let his guard down for a second when Big Sister changed direction and took off running. By the time he fumbled to react, she was already a good distance away. He shouted in frustration, This isn't good. She's getting away, but it's not over yet. We still have an ace up our sleeve. Mr. Lai, he's preparing for the second shot. Up on the high floor, Mr. Lai was completely focused on his scope, calmly speaking into his walkie-talkie. You think you can run? Through Mr. Lai's sights, he could see Big Sister running for her life. He adjusted the crosshair, aligning it near her heart, then checked if the Barrett rifle in his hands agreed with the aim. With a single shot, Mr. Lai first targeted her leg. The slender leg was severed in two. She screamed in pain, her mouth wide open in shock and agony. Ah! 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 Her face was twisted with both pain and fear. Just a little more, and they'd reached the car. Unfortunately for her, she got hit in the leg by a bullet and collapsed. The people inside the car quickly opened the door, aiming for her back to take out her heart and finish her off. Mr. Lai, startled and frustrated, quickly pulled the gun back and fired again. Shit, so annoying I missed. Inside the car, our closest long-bearded subordinate had managed to get in first. He immediately grabbed Big Sister and tried to pull her into the car, shouting, "Big Sister!" She, in pain, struggled to get up and ordered, "Drive. Hurry, drive." The car quickly turned around, avoiding the heavy gunfire from Jiang Xiao Yong's team. The driver swerved wildly, trying to dodge the continuous bullets. The car finally managed to break out of the trap set by Jiang Xiao Yong's forces, but they still hadn't caught the leader. Everyone yelled in panic, "Damn it, she got away." Standing there, watching the car struggling to speed away with incredible speed, Jiang Xiao Yong appeared very calm. Through his earpiece, Mr. Lei's worried voice came through. "What should we do if they come back later?" However, Jiang Xiao Yong didn't seem concerned. He simply smiled lightly and reassured him, "Fine, I know where they are." At that moment, the system interface appeared, and the task Nemesis of Evil was marked as complete. Task requirements: defend against the invasion. Regular accumulation points, 50 points. Task description: expand the community. Mission requirements: use all efforts to improve the community rating and advance the mission to defend against the invasion. Trust among members has greatly increased. Community rating has gone up by 2 points. Current rating, 5 points. Regular accumulation, 20 points. Current accumulation, 76 points. By the time the Big Sister's car had reached the highway, Jiang Xiaoyang's system only pointed one large arrow towards the enemy's base. The system continued with a new mission, Nemesis of Evil, Part 2. Mission requirements: attack the enemy stronghold and eliminate the cannibals. Reward 50 points for accumulation. Until everything settled down, Shang Shang, Mr. Han, and Jiang Zi were thrilled with the team's victory. The little girl, Shang Shang, jumped up, raising her arms in pure excitement. "Yeah, we won." Then Jiang Xiaoyang, being very considerate, approached and asked everyone, "Did we have any casualties?" Jiang Zi spoke on behalf of everyone and answered him, "No one died, but a few people are injured." Upon hearing this, Xiaoyang immediately said, "Take the injured to the medical room and disinfect them quickly. As for the enemy bodies, drag them all to the cold storage to save them for Shen Song." After saying that, he turned around, gave a signal with his eyes, and then went to bring the victims from the abandoned building back, ensuring they were temporarily safe. It seemed like everything had been wrapped up for now. Jiang Xiaoyan happily looked at his system and thought to himself, "This time I earned 76 points. I need to spend some tonight." The scene then shifted to the Big Sister's base. They had returned. The car stopped in front of the door where many of their subordinates were standing guard. She was weak now and had lost a leg, but luckily she got first aid in time and didn't lose her life. 2 of her men had to help her inside. One of the group members, seeing Big Sister's injured body, quickly walked up and asked what happened. He was holding a baton and looked really pissed off because his side had taken a hit. After losing the fight, she couldn't hide her frustration and anger. She clenched her teeth and answered, gritting her voice, "Damn it, I underestimated them. I didn't expect those guys to have heavy weapons. So now I'm taking my anger out on you." She snapped at the guy standing by the door. "What are you standing there for? Go get someone to bring me some meat." The guy frowned, clearly annoyed. It was obvious from his attitude that he didn't have an easy time with Big Sister. He didn't answer immediately, but gave her a slight, dangerous smile. He led the others, but they all just stood there, doing nothing, and didn't respond to Big Sister. Seeing her stubborn attitude, she pointed right at his face and shouted, "What are you waiting for? Go already, you useless fool. You're not even worth one of Old Man's toenails." The Old Man's once mighty body was no more, and now Big Sister was left with only one leg. This situation was perfect for her subordinates. The blonde-haired man in charge immediately showed his true colors. His face darkened as he pointed at Big Sister's missing leg and sneered, "You filthy bitch, you've fallen so low, and you still have the nerve to talk to me like that." Big Sister was left speechless, her body weakened, and she realized she was in a tough spot. She pulled back, lowering her voice, sounding worried. "Are you trying to start a rebellion or something?" It was the final straw. She was already struggling, and now this. Her eyes burned with rage, ready to explode. She quickly ordered her 2 most loyal subordinates, "Get him! Take him down." The 2 men, realizing the power balance had shifted, stayed silent, not daring to move. They hesitated, unsure of what to do. Big Sister, confused, turned to look at them and slowly began to understand. Now, his underlings were no longer holding him back. He raised his club high, confidently projecting his voice in front of Big Sister. "You're wounded now. The old man is dead, and I'm the strongest one here. Besides, the guys have already recognized me as their leader." With that, he had nothing left to fear. He puffed up his chest and, with a proud, mocking tone, shouted, "Ask anyone. Isn't that right?" Big Sister was on the defensive. She couldn't do anything now, especially since everyone around her had turned against her. Furious, she gritted her teeth and growled, "Damn it, get back! You all betrayed me, huh? Don't think I can't deal with you just because of this." It wasn't just a few, but a whole lot of men. They surrounded Big Sister like ants swarming a food trail, likely because of the harsh way she had treated them in the past. Now when she was down, they all turned against her. Big Sister was being squeezed in tighter and tighter, and she stammered, "No, please don't." The blonde-haired man leading the rebellion raised a metal rod high, a satisfied smile spreading across his face. His mouth hung open in a menacing grin, eyes blazing with fury as he stared at Big Sister. He laughed loudly, preparing for the final blow to bring down the monster who had ruled over them all for so long. Immediately, several strong young men, each holding a large metal pipe, began striking her relentlessly. Their faces showed clear signs of enjoyment and relief. Many of them crowded in, eager to hit Big Sister as hard as they could. Their laughter filled the air. Ha ha ha. At this point, it was hard not to feel sorry for her, as she was being beaten up by the group. However, considering the evil things she had done in the past, this was the consequence she had to face. Big Sister lay there writhing in pain, curling up to endure the blows. She held her head, screaming in agony. Ah! She was tortured until her screams faded, and her body grew weak. Despite this, the beatings continued. After a while, the group of young men, having vented their pent-up anger, finally stopped. One of them, a blonde guy, wiped the blood off his fingers with a grin, looking at Big Sister. From behind, a voice with a menacing tone called out, "Third brother." Suddenly, the blonde guy spun around, his face fierce. His eyes widened as he yelled at the man behind him. "What did you just call me?" The man froze, his expression changing as he was caught off guard. He immediately dropped to his knees and repeatedly bowed his head to the ground, apologizing. Boss, I'm sorry, I misspoke." His demeanor was completely different now. He shoved his hands into his pockets and waved his hand dismissively. "All right, if you have something to say it quickly." One of his underlings quickly looked up, clearly worried, and said, "That woman is dead now, and so is brother too. Plus, so many of our guys are gone. Our fighting strength is seriously weakened. If we run into that person..." He paused and scratched his cheek as something crossed his mind. He was thinking about an evolved zombie, massive in size with dangerous tentacles. He muttered, almost in fear, "That tentacle guy." Shaking off his worry, he raised his hand and waved it dismissively again. He seemed unconcerned and spoke up. "No, it's fine. We can just join forces with the people from the western region." With that, he walked inside, leaving the woman's lifeless body so lying outside. A few hours later, Jiang Xiao Yong's car followed the system's directions and arrived at the base of the other group. Jiang Xiao Yong stepped out of the car with Zhang Zi and Mr. Lai following him. As soon as they got out, Zhang Zi cautiously turned to acknowledge Jiang Xiao Yong's words. "Well, Xiao Yong, you were right. This place really is a base." Xiao Yong just gave a slight smile, and then, once everything was settled, he led the two of them inside. He carefully signaled for them to stay quiet and whispered, "Let's sneak in quietly and avoid making any noise." Mr. Lai and Zhang Zi tried their best to cooperate. After a while, the three of them quietly discussed things without making any sound. Could it be that all of them have already left? Maybe they ran off ahead of time. They must be afraid we're coming after them. When they finally found what they were looking for, all three men froze at the sight of the Big Sister's body crushed and broken, with limbs twisted and a leg that had been severed earlier. Her face was horribly deformed. Mr. Lai pointed at her in shock. "It's the woman I shot earlier. Did they even kill their own people? I guess it's not so surprising, considering they're just a bunch of thugs." Jiang Xiao Yong gave a disdainful glance at the body, clearly showing his contempt for them. "Ha ha! This doesn't surprise me at all." Zhang Zi, walking up behind them, said, "Xiao Yong, to be honest, the huge monster we encountered before didn't look anything like Shen Song. Even I'm starting to question the evolution of these zombies." Jiang Xiao Yong heard this and looked away, lost in thought. Mr. Lai also noticed and brought up the person he had shot in the head. "That's right. I even heard them call him some kind of evolved being." After saying this, Mr. Lai became curious. What does evolved mean? How does someone become an evolved being? Our main character, Jiang Xiao Yong, had his own questions. After all, he was someone who had been reincarnated and had a system, so he too was confused about the situation. He crossed his arms, thought for a moment, and answered Mr. Lai, "Eat human flesh." Upon hearing this, both of them were startled. They both broke into a cold sweat, staring at Jiang Xiao Yong, and asked in unison, "Eat human flesh." Jiang Xiao Yong calmly responded, "Yes, if you want to become an evolved being, like those zombies who gain power, the most direct way is to eat human flesh." At this point, Zhang Zi couldn't hide his shock. Meeting Xiao Yong really means meeting someone strong. Jiang Zai hesitated before asking Jiang Xiao Yong, So what about you, Xiao Yong?" He, along with Mr. Lai, was filled with confusion. Mr. Lai asked, clearly unsettled, "If we want to survive in this world, do we really have to eat human flesh too?" Facing the confused expressions of the two people, Jiang Xiao Yong calmly slipped his hands into his jacket pockets and gently reassured them. "Don't worry, eating human flesh is the most direct way, but it's not the only way." With that, he extended his hand, revealing a small, slightly glowing red object. Both of them stared at it, wide-eyed and speechless. What is this?" Jiang Xiao Yong began to explain, keeping it simple. Whether it's an evolved being or a zombie, they're all considered mutated forms. In order to evolve, these mutated beings need to absorb mutation energy. For regular humans, this energy is scattered throughout the blood and flesh. It's small, but better than nothing. The stronger ones can condense it into an energy core, while evolved beings and rare mutated creatures have much more energy. As the disaster intensifies, even zombies have a chance of condensing their mutation into an energy vein. After hearing this, Mr. Lai slowly started to understand. He stroked his chin and said, "So that means zombies also have mutation energy, and we could eat zombies directly." Cough, cough. Jiang's eye turned pale with fear at these words, panicking and shouting, "Oh shit, Uncle Lai, you can eat them if you want, but I'm definitely not eating any." Jiang Xiaoyong immediately added a reminder, lowering his voice, "Your loved ones can't eat zombie flesh or they'll get infected. Only mutated beings like Chen Song can grow stronger by swallowing zombies." As soon as Xiaoyong finished speaking, a system notification appeared. The mission: Punish the Evil Part 2. Complete the task by attacking the enemy base and eliminating the cannibals. Reward: 50 points. Current points: 126. After reading it, Jiang Xiaoyong thought, "Oh, so the system has already calculated this. It seems that even though there are survivors, they can no longer pose a significant threat." While he was focusing on the mission, Jiang Zai suddenly shouted, "Watch out." Jiang Xiaoyong quickly shot a sharp glance over, his face darkening. At that moment, a pale zombie lunged at him. It was covered in wounds, with blood stuck to its body. It jumped toward Xiaoyong, but he swiftly dodged to the side and drove a dagger straight into its temple. In the next second, the zombie collapsed, hitting the ground with its head, still holding the dagger in its hand. Xiaoyong was a bit surprised and said, "I didn't expect it to sneak up on me without making a sound." As he approached the zombie, Jiang Xiaoyong used his heated rod and made a sharp, long slash across its chest. A reddish glow immediately appeared. He quickly grabbed a chunk of red meat from the zombie's body, examined it closely, and then said, "It's real. Looks like it's time for me to start hunting." With that, he extended his hands, offering the two most refined pieces of zombie meat to Jiang Zi and Mr. Lai. Xiaoyong took a step back, moving closer to them. At first, both Jiang Zi and Mr. Lai were taken aback. They instinctively stepped back. Jiang Zai shook his hands, refusing. I can't do it. Just let Mr. Lai have it." Mr. Lai seemed braver. He took the two chunks of zombie meat from Jiang Xiaoyong's hands, now trying hard to stay calm. He stared at the red pieces, a strong smell of blood filling the air without saying a word. His eyes narrowed in disgust. It was truly repulsive. But if he could just get through this, things would be different. Mr. Lai reassured himself. "Damn it, I've got no choice. I'll risk it." With that, he shut his eyes tightly, pressed both pieces into his mouth, and desperately tried to chew and swallow quickly. The sounds of the meat squelching in his mouth echoed. After a moment, it seemed to take effect. Mr. Lai opened his eyes wide, his pupils now glowing red, though his mouth still hadn't finished swallowing. A few minutes later, Mr. Lai exclaimed, "Wow, just a few minutes and my muscles have grown." He tightened his arm and showed it to Jiang Xiaoyong. "This feels amazing." Jiang Xiaoyong reminded him, "Even though it feels great, you just entered the ranks of the evolved. Your strength isn't enough to dominate in the apocalypse yet. Don't act recklessly just because of this." Mr. Lai immediately adjusted his emotions, relaxing his serious expression, and replied, "Xiaoyong, I understand. Don't worry." The mission was complete, and there was nothing left to hold the brute back. He turned to lead the way, saying, "We're done here. The danger's past. Let's head back." The scene shifted to another base near the West Feng Steel Factory. In front of this base, a group of people was walking inside. They had arrived in a white car parked out front. A guard on duty noticed the strangers and shouted, "Stop! Who's there?" It was Sandang's route. He had brought his followers here hoping to piggyback on a bigger gang. He waved his hands and started flattering. "Oh, it's me. I'm Sandang from the coal factory." The guard, with a cold expression, glanced at Sandang, his brows furrowed as he asked, "Sandang from the coal factory? Wait here, I'll go report to the leader." Sandang's face lit up and he nodded vigorously. Later, after the man finished his report, the Shang Dang group was allowed inside. The owner of the place was a tall, bald man, and standing next to him was a sexy, strong woman. As soon as he saw Shang Dang, the bald man laughed and asked, "Ha ha, Shang Dang, why are you one coming here this time?" The woman behind him stood with her hands on her hips and asked, "What about Jing Yu and that big guy?" Mentioning the big sister made him uncomfortable, and he awkwardly lowered his gaze. Shang Dang didn't dare to make eye contact and hesitated before replying, "Ah, we were attacked and to protect us. Big sister and the big guy didn't make it." The bald man's face immediately showed signs of sadness when he heard this news. He gave a slight nod and said, "Oh, I see." It was clear that the two brutes had a close relationship. Understanding the situation, the bald man turned to his subordinates and ordered, "Take Shang Dang and the coal factory crew to the safe room." Shang Dang, thinking that his connections gave him some status, held his head high, though his eyes didn't dare look directly at the owner. It was easy to tell that the bald man turned to say something to his woman. She seemed to notice and whispered back, "Ha, I thought so too." Meanwhile, the Shang Dang group left. After being offered shelter by the owner of the steel mill in the west, the Shang Dang group was led into a room. Inside, one of the underlings called out, Brother 3. As soon as he heard his name, the man's face twisted in anger. He snapped back at the underling for calling him so casually. "What did you just call me?" The underling scratched his head, looking embarrassed and unsure of how to respond. I mean, big brother, sorry, big brother, I have a bad feeling about this." Shang Dang gritted his teeth and cursed. "Stop with the superstition. What bad feeling?" The underling nervously glanced toward the outside, clearly uneasy, and cautiously said, "Big brother, take a look at this safe room. The iron door, the iron windows, it's basically a prison." Before he could finish his sentence, a guard outside suddenly shoved the door open. The man, with a fierce look on his face, stormed in, causing total chaos among the group inside. He stared directly at Shang Dang and ordered, "You all come out here." A few minutes later, he led them to the place where the owner was. There were a lot of his underlings surrounding the area, and the bald man and the woman were already waiting. As soon as Shang Dang saw the bald man, his face twitched, and he forced a smile, saying, "Boss, what's going on? What happened?" Pretending to be clueless, he started acting gentle. The woman next to the bald man spoke first. She put her hands on her hips, twirled a lock of her hair, and loudly asked, "Going after your own leader? What do you think will happen to someone like that?" Shocked that these two knew about his actions, Shang Dang immediately switched his manipulative mode. He crouched down, raised his hands, and stammered, "What do you mean? Big brother, Sister Ning, this must be some misunderstanding." Still pretending to know nothing, he was sweating buckets, his forehead covered in cold sweat. The woman, who Shang Dang called Sister Ning, wasn't impressed by his words. She laughed loudly and squinted her eyes, clearly seeing through him. Sister Ning signaled with 2 fingers to a tall man behind her. "Misunderstanding? Ha, Lai Cheng, let him die without any confusion." He was allowed to speak and immediately exposed Shang Dang. "I went to the coal factory and found Lai Jingru dead in the yard. Their older brother is missing. No one knows whether he's alive or dead." He then emphasized, "The entire coal factory has no signs of a struggle." When Shang Dang heard this, he was speechless, not knowing what to say. He stood there frozen, clenching his teeth. Right after that, Lai Cheng pointed directly at Shang Dang's face and shouted. The most reasonable explanation is that it was them. During a disadvantageous operation, they had an internal conflict and killed Lai Jingru. Lai Cheng's eyes were filled with anger and a cold, murderous intent. Yet Shang Dang shamelessly tried to defend himself, sweat dripping down his face as he desperately argued. No, that's not it. You don't have enough evidence. This is just your guess." Shang Dang tried to act as if he were the victim, pretending to be innocent. The leader of the place suddenly burst into laughter, laughing loudly, and then shouted, "Evidence? Ha! What kind of world is this where you're still talking about evidence?" Next to him, Sister Ning sneered in contempt. He continued, "To be honest with you, if I didn't respect the abilities of Lai Jingru and your older brother, I would have ended all of you little brats a long time ago." His face grew increasingly sinister. After speaking, he lowered his voice and with a terrifying gesture added, "Kill them all." He clenched his teeth as he spoke, looking very unsettling. At that moment, one of the members from Shang Dang, terrified out of his mind, stepped forward with his hands clasped and pleading. "Please spare us, I have valuable intel." Was this guy about to confess everything? Shang Dang's leader was sitting on edge, practically shaking in fear, his mouth frozen open. Sister Ning quickly reacted. "Oh, what kind of intel?" she asked, looking curiously at the man. He immediately pointed behind him and, without hesitation, spilled everything he knew to the Eagle team. To the east, there's a large city full of people. With plenty of supplies, the big sister and the second brother were defeated by them. "Please don't kill us, I'll lead you there." Shang Dang's group then redirected toward Jiang Xiao Yong's base to avoid disaster. In times like this, supplies were more important than human lives. Sister Ning gave the man a sharp glance. She seemed intrigued, her interest piqued. She asked, "How does it compare to this place in terms of scale and strength?" The man hesitated, unsure how to respond, and finally said, "It's about an even match." Then she looked at her boyfriend and said, "This is definitely a ticking time bomb." The guy, hearing this, started thinking deeply. He was quiet for a long time, but eventually, he noticed a weakness in Jiang Xiaoyang's group. His subordinate immediately reported more information, hoping to make up for his earlier mistakes. However, they still didn't know how to evolve. Throughout the area, I didn't see a single evolved person. Lei Chang on this side observed the situation. He looked at the subordinate standing in front of him, feeling uncertain about this intel. How to become an evolved person? He muttered, furrowing his brows in thought. After a while, he asked the subordinate about the team's failure. "If none of you are evolved, then why did you lose?" The small, timid subordinate rushed forward to explain. "Because they have heavy weapons. Normal guns can't kill Brother 2, but they only need one shot to take him down." Maybe these guys hadn't seen Chen Song yet, so they unintentionally underestimated Jiang Xiaoyang's group. When Sister Ning heard this, she couldn't help but praise the chatty subordinate. "Good job. This information is really useful." He was scared, shaking, but also thrilled. With a nervous smile, he pointed at himself and said, "So, what about us?" She lifted her head, then suddenly changed her expression. She ordered the two people behind her, "Kill them." Just a moment ago, they had been celebrating, thinking they'd be spared. But now, after her words, the members of the Shang Dang group looked horrified. They were drenched in sweat, their faces pale, as if all the blood had drained from them. The loudmouth man couldn't believe what was happening and gasped in shock. From outside, you could hear the voices of the Shang Dang group shouting desperately, "Wait, I've already provided the intel. You can't do this. Spare us. Please spare us." One by one, they were executed. In times like these, there's no such thing as right or wrong, and no one came forward to help them. Later, the body of one man was covered in deep scratches and signs of torture, blood still dripping from the wounds. He was standing in front of the lifeless members of Shang Dang, blood splattered everywhere. The bald man casually put his hand in his pocket, glanced down at the corpse, and said, "What now? This threat needs to be eliminated as soon as possible." Now the evil group was worried about the Jiang Xiaoyong group. A man standing nearby also spoke up, hands on his hips. "The enemy has heavy weapons. It's too risky to go now. We should focus on advancing our evolution first." "Yeah, that sounds much safer," came the reply. The little punk, beaten so badly by the evil group that his face was unrecognizable even to faced ID, lay sprawled on the floor surrounded by pools of blood. They had died horribly. Standing over the three lifeless bodies, the gang leader ordered, "Send someone out to scout first and make sure they have no idea how to evolve." The scene shifts to the base of Jiang Xiaoyang. He was lying back on a comfy sofa, opening up his system panel. With 126 accumulated points, he wondered what he could buy. On the system screen, it displayed current accumulated points 126, oil and protein supply crate, level 1. Subtracts 5 accumulated points, black tech supply crate, level 2. Subtracts 50 accumulated points, manual refresh, subtracts 4 accumulated points. After reading this, Jiang Xiaoyong was pumped. He looked at the system panel, feeling excited, and said, "Another level 2 black tech supply crate. I'm really lucky." He raised his index finger and clicked on the screen. Beep. Instantly, 2 notifications appeared on the system. Successfully exchanged oil and protein supply crate, level 1. Subtracted 5 accumulated points. Successfully exchanged black tech supply crate, level 2. Subtracted 50 accumulated points. Current accumulated points, 71. The oil and protein supply crate, level 1, has been activated. Rewards received: 500 kilograms of lotus root powder from Best, 200 kilograms of vegetable oil and mixed cooking oil. The black tech supply crate, level 2, has been activated. Reward received: enhancement drug. Immediately, There was a reaction. In front of Xiao Yong, a golden light spread out, becoming blinding. Jiang Xiao Yong had successfully made the conversion, and he laughed out loud in joy. Ha ha ha. While enjoying his own happiness, suddenly someone knocked on the door. Knock knock. Startled, Xiao Yong turned around and shouted, "Come in." "It's Shang Shang." The girl quickly entered and reported to Xiao Yong. "Brother Xiao Yong." Seeing Shang Shang's urgency, Jiang Xiao Yong was puzzled and asked, "What's going on?" Shang Shang quickly responded, "We've caught a suspicious person." There was an intruder, and it seemed the main character had lost track of their target. Jiang Xiao Yong immediately stood up, his face full of concern. He quickly asked, "Let me go see." A moment later, at Jiang Zi and Mr. Li's location, both were holding onto a man. They were serious and careful, while the intruder, tightly held, was continuously justifying himself, saying, "I'm not an enemy. Call your leader here." Upon hearing this, Jiang Xiao Yong appeared before the man. He slowly approached the stranger and spoke in a low voice, "Were you looking for me?" Shang Shang, standing behind, looked at the man being held with a somewhat unfriendly expression. The moment the man saw Jiang Xiao Yong, his attitude shifted to one of excitement. He asked, "Are you the leader?" Jiang Xiao Yong maintained a cautious demeanor. He looked directly at the man and responded, "Yes, I am. If you have something to say, you can talk to me." The stranger didn't get to the point right away. Instead, he asked, "How should I address you?" Xiao Yong's face remained expressionless as he replied, "Jiang Xiao Yong." The main character's gaze dropped, and he seemed a bit concerned about this person. He wasn't comfortable. After Xiao Yong said his name, the stranger pointed to his own face and laughed loudly. "Ha ha, Brother Yang." Then he switched to a much lighter and friendlier tone, continuing, "Let me introduce myself. My name is Ahang, and I'm from the steel factory in the west." At this point, Mr. Lai and Jiang Zi finally relaxed a little around the stranger. Zaixuan's father was also there. He approached the man, puzzled, and asked, "From the western region?" The man nodded, cautiously replying, Yeah. Noticing Zaixuan's father speaking, Jiang Xiaoyong became curious and asked him, "What's going on? Do you know this guy?" Uncle Song explained, "The western region is in the southwest on the western outskirts. It's the largest steel factory in the area. It seems similar to the coal workshop on the southern outskirts. It's become a major hub." Xiaoyong asked, "How far is it from here?" Uncle Song replied, "It's about 3 kilometers farther than the workshop on the southern outskirts." After hearing Uncle Song's explanation, Jiang Xiaoyong moved closer to the man. He couldn't help but feel suspicious and asked, "Why did you come all the way here from such a far distance?" The man nervously stepped back, sweating as if caught off guard, but then regained his composure and explained to Jiang Xiaoyong, "Right now, the situation is chaotic. Those of us who are lucky enough to survive need to stick together and help each other. Don't you think so, Brother Yang?" Jiang Xiaoyong remained cold and replied, "Yeah, go on." Now the man began to speak. "Our leader sent us to find any survivors and their location. If we can bring them back, we will." At this point, he still hesitated, not daring to look directly at Xiaoyong. His words seemed somewhat humane, but they were immediately interrupted by our fat boy. He took out a piece of paper and held it up in front of Jiang Xiaoyong, bluntly saying, "Xiaoyong, don't listen to this nonsense. He's been sneaking around here for a while," and he even drew a map. Jiang Xiaoyong took the paper from Xiao Kai's hand, brought it closer to his eyes, and carefully examined it. Meanwhile, the man behind him nervously watched Xiaoyong, clearly anxious. Now, Xiaoyong activated his special ability, the spiritual eye. One of his eyes blazed with a green flame, and he stared directly at the man to verify his intentions. Above the stranger's head appeared a menacing expression. He was trying to look calm and innocent, but his forced smile was anything but convincing as he glanced at Xiaoyong. Without a doubt, Jiang Xiaoyong immediately aimed his gun at the stranger's temple. He didn't say a word. His actions spoke for themselves. The man panicked, raising his hands in a desperate gesture. Xiaoyong's face darkened. Hidden in the shadow that covered his face, the male lead glared at the person in front of him and said firmly, "We're all living through the apocalypse here. Do you think I'm an idiot? If you don't tell me the truth, I'll shoot you right now." The man with the dark heart was terrified. He didn't dare to make a move and swallowed hard, trying to steady his nerves. Now this crafty man tried to talk his way out of it again. With Jiang Xiaoyong's gun pointed at him, he kept putting on a pitiful face, saying, "Yang, honestly, we did it to leave ourselves an escape route. We can't afford to trust others." Once the man finished speaking, Jiang Xiaoyong leaned in and whispered to Jiang Zi, "Does he know about Chen Song?" Jiang Zi covered his mouth with his hand and whispered back, "No, he doesn't. Chen Song has never appeared in front of him." At this point, Jiang Xiaoyong suddenly changed his mind. He lowered his gun and gestured for them to let the man go. Uncle Song was completely surprised. A suspect as slippery as this and Xiao Yong was letting him go so easily. He hesitated and asked, "Huh?" Just like that. "Let him go." The man inside was secretly overjoyed, still shocked by how quickly Xiao Yong's decision had changed. He couldn't contain his grin, nervously chuckling and stammered, "Really?" After saying that, Jiang Xiao Yong took the drawing from the stranger, pointed it directly at him, and muttered to himself, "Give him this map and let him go." Xiao Yong's gaze was firm, with no hesitation at all. He was very decisive. The stranger was let go. He immediately knelt on the ground, repeatedly banging his head against it. He seemed overjoyed and extremely grateful to Xiao Yong. As he kept banging his head, he shouted loudly, thank you, Xiao Yong." In the blink of an eye, this person turned and ran off like a gust of wind, escaping from Jiang Xiao Yong's group. He ran so fast he didn't dare look back. He fled far away. Meanwhile, Xiao Yong smiled slyly, lowered his head slightly, and kept his eyes on the figure of the man as he ran. He thought to himself, "Ha ha ha, the steel factory in the West, huh? I wonder how many points you guys are worth in the system." It seemed that Xiao Yong had a new plan for a sweep. Months later, at the steel factory in the West, two people were moving two carts toward a large pile of scrap metal. One of them said to the other, "I heard that people have started disappearing again recently." The other person shuddered, recalling the tentacled zombie that roamed the area eating people. He said, "That monster has started causing trouble again." Suddenly, a strange noise came from the pile of scrap metal, and both men immediately turned their attention to it. "What's that sound?" One of them pushed his cart closer to check out what it was. The other man, more frightened than curious, stood back and yelled out a warning. "Don't go over there. Call security to check it out." Without warning, a dagger flew through the air at high speed. Though small, it was launched with incredible force and was extremely dangerous. It accurately hit its target, slicing across the neck of one man. The deep, severe wound caused him to bleed heavily on the spot. Before he could even understand what had happened, he was already falling to the ground, heading straight for death. Meanwhile, Lai Cheng was calmly smoking a cigarette. He had his hands in his pockets, leaning back against a nearby wall, enjoying the quiet moment. Suddenly, a voice cried out from the other side, "Help! Help me!" Hearing someone shout caught Lai Cheng's attention. His curiosity piqued. He glanced over and immediately changed his demeanor. Just as he heard the cry for help, one of his underlings rushed toward him, out of breath. Lai Cheng quickly asked, "What's going on?" The man was running while pointing frantically behind him, shouting loudly, "A monster, a monster. It just killed someone." When Lai Cheng heard the word monster, he immediately thought about the creature that's been causing chaos lately. "A monster? You mean the one with the tentacles?" One of his underlings, breathing heavily, replied with complete certainty, "Yes, that's it. It's definitely it." Li Cheng asked, "Where?" The man quickly responded, "Over by the trash pit." Li Cheng's face twisted with frustration. He gritted his teeth, muttering angrily to himself, "Humph, no warning before attacking, huh?" Without wasting any time, he spun around and shouted orders to his gang. "Everyone, get out of here. If you've evolved and can escape, follow me." His call was enough to get the group of strong, young men to quickly gather around. Under Lai Cheng's lead, 3 of his trusted evolved soldiers followed him. He made sure they were all armed as they prepared to approach the trash heap, each of them cautious about every step they took, ready to fight. Lai Cheng led the way, placing one hand on a plastic bottle near the trash, while the other held his gun ready for anything. He scanned the area, signaling to his men, "Sho, that's the one with the tentacles. If we run into it, don't try to fight, just run." The 2 men behind him were also ready, weapons in hand, prepared for action. In front of him was a huge pile of trash, and next to it was the cart of the person who had just been murdered. Lai Cheng stared at it for a long time, focusing carefully on every detail. After a while, seeing nothing special, he furrowed his brow and said with some frustration, "He's not here, huh?" He felt a deep sense of disappointment. Only after a bit did he dare move closer to where the victim had been killed. Lai Cheng and his companions noticed footprints on the ground. One of his men asked, "Did the tentacle monster leave?" Another one added, "Do you think it caught its prey and left?" Li Cheng squatted down, almost like a real detective, observing and thinking carefully. He reached out with his hand and spoke. "Ever since Bitch, Tui Mountain, the coal factory, and the southern suburbs were wiped out, the number of our people disappearing has clearly been rising. It goes without saying, those 3 places used to evenly distribute the people who were hunted. Now, it's just us left." Li Cheng's face grew darker and darker, and the hatred and resentment were becoming more and more obvious. He glared ahead, then suddenly noticed something and muttered, "No, it's not the tentacle monster." The scene shifted back to Jiang Xiao Yong's base. The weather was nice and sunny with lots of clouds in the sky. The area around the male protagonist's place was quiet and very safe. Standing on a balcony far above the ground, Jiang Xiao Yong looked out over his million-dollar view and began to think further ahead. Having survived longer than in his past life, he started to believe that rebuilding civilization wasn't impossible after all. The system alert appeared with a new mission update. The mission's goal was to expand the community, and the task required putting in all efforts to raise the community's rating. The current rating was 38. After reading it, he placed his hand on the railing, looking a bit concerned. It's been months now, and the system mission for the steel factory in the west, or whatever still hasn't been released, he said, his voice filled with worry. Before he could continue, someone suddenly called his name loudly. Jiang Xiao Yong. It was Shang calling. She waved her hand excitedly from below as she got out of a car. With a bright smile, she proudly shouted like announcing an achievement. We're back. Xiao Yong stood above, looking down and smiled with satisfaction. He made a swift movement and his small light gently landed on the ground. Months had passed, and Xiao Yong's agility and strength had improved significantly. He landed easily from the high building as if it were nothing. In the blink of an eye, he was standing right in front of Shang and Jiang Zi. As soon as he saw his younger siblings, Jiang Xiao Yong quickly asked, "Did the hunting operation go unnoticed?" Jiang Zi beamed, confidently replying, "Don't worry, brother Xiao Yong. With our current abilities, if anyone nearby was following us, we'd have noticed." After taking care of the older kids, it was time to focus on the younger ones. Xiao Yong was very concerned about his team. He bent down and asked the little boy, Shui, "How's Shui doing? Still adjusting okay?" Shui nodded and confidently gave a loud yes. Then he immediately started waving his arms and showing off to Uncle Xiao Yong. "Don't worry, Uncle Xiao Yong, I did really well today." Xiao Ning, standing nearby, smiled at how cute and playful the little boy was. She patted his head and added her praise. "That's right. Today, Shui took down a zombie all by himself." This performance made Jiang Xiao Yong very happy and reassured him a bit. After that, he gave orders to the team. "Great job! Now take the core specimen to the storage room." Just then, the system board displayed a new mission notification. Defeat the villain for the third time. Mission requirement. Eliminate the threat and enhance support for potential team members. Reward 80 points. After reading the notification, Jiang Xiao Yong thought to himself, potential team members, does that mean the people at the steel factory in the west? A moment later, in a secure room at the base, Xiao Yong held a meeting. He was listening carefully to Mr. Lai, who seemed very surprised by Xiao Yong's decision. Mr. Lai clenched his hands and said, "What? You're going to infiltrate the steel factory alone? That's way too dangerous." In the room, there were also Jiang Zi and Uncle Song. After hearing Jiang Xiao Yong's thoughts, Uncle Song grew worried and voiced his concern, agreeing with Mr. Lai. "That's right. Every now and then they send someone to spy on us. Who knows what kind of sinister plans they might have." Then he added urgently, "Xiao Yong, if anything happens to you, we won't be able to assist you." Jiang Xiao Yong understood his concern, but he had already made plans. He turned his head away, looked into the distance, and confidently replied, "Don't worry, with my current abilities, even Shen Song couldn't harm me, let alone them. Besides, the purpose of my trip is to confirm whether they are friends or foes." After saying that, Jiang Xiao Yong sat down in the main seat and turned to Mr. Lai. He extended his hand and clearly asked for Mr. Lai, and everyone else's support. "Please do your best to protect the fortress and this area." Everyone respected Xiao Yong's decision and listened attentively to him. After receiving the information, Mr. Lai nodded and said, "Yes, you won't have to worry about this side, but you need to be careful. Our stronghold can't be without you." The scene shifts to a steel factory on the west side. From the outside, you can see large columns of black smoke rising high into the sky. A voice from one of the workers shouts, "Let me in. I have urgent news to report." Inside the factory, two men are standing in front of the main door to a room. After hearing the request from the man outside, one of them, dressed in a black suit, spreads his arms to block the entrance. "I told you, no one gets in without permission from the two leaders," he says firmly. Suddenly, the man insisting on meeting the leader loses his temper. His eyes bulge wide and thick veins appear on his forehead. He narrows his brows, looking extremely fierce. It's Lai Cheng. Without warning, he grabs the collar of the man in the black suit. The man is tall and solid, so the force of the grip is intense. The black-suited man struggles, his breath becoming shallow as he clenches his teeth in pain. One of his companions shouts, "Lai Cheng, are you crazy?" At the sound of the shout, Lai Cheng snaps back to reality. He flinches, his eyes widening as if he's just been jolted out of a trance. Realizing what he's done, he quickly releases the man in the black suit. Flustered and unsure of how to explain himself, he apologizes hastily. Sorry about that." The man in the black suit, still shaken from the near chokehold, gasps for air his breathing heavy. Now, Lai Chang slowly started to collect his thoughts. He stared blankly at a corner, muttering to himself, "What's going on? Why can't I keep my emotions in check like I used to? It's been happening more and more often these past few months." The two people who had just been startled by Lai Chang's actions were both worried and surprised. The one standing behind him, annoyed for his friend, shouted, "Dan, what's wrong with you? Don't think just because the boss favors you, you won't do something about it." Inside the room, the noise from the commotion could be heard, and then a voice belonging to Sister Ning called out, "Is that Lai Chang? Let him in." The guard by the door, hearing the boss's voice, turned around and replied, "Yes, ma'am." Though his face showed reluctance, he had no choice but to obey. From inside, a voice called out again, urging, "Come in." When Lai Chang opened the door, the light from the room shone directly in his face. His expression was blank and caught off guard. He looked around and noticed something inside the room that caught his attention. Sister Ning. She was standing beside a desk in a provocative posture, her shirt tightly cinched at the waist, clearly showing off her toned figure. With a small smile and a flirtatious glance, she looked like a teacher playing her part. Sister Ning spoke up, "What's the matter?" As soon as Lai Chang entered, he immediately began explaining the situation about the zombie monster causing chaos, the involvement of the tentacle monster, and the scope of our hunting operations. "I have a different perspective," he said. Sister Ning immediately became serious, lowering her voice as she asked, "Oh, what do you think?" Li Chang replied, "I've thoroughly investigated the scene and found footprints left by a woman. The victim this time was a man." Hearing the clues Lai Chang had gathered, Sister Ning started to feel uneasy. She pouted in discomfort, saying nothing further, her expression clearly unhappy. Then she looked away and cautiously asked Lai Chang, "So, you're saying the killer is someone else?" The room only had the two of them. Li Chang confirmed, "That's right." Sister Ning's eyes suddenly changed color, turning a bright yellow, glowing with intensity. She lowered her head and ordered Li Chang, "All right, I understand. This information is very useful, but don't let it spread." Li Chang was puzzled. "Why not?" Sister Ning explained, "One tentacle monster has already caused enough panic. I don't want people to be too scared to go outside." Li Chang understood her point. He also felt uneasy about her dominance in the situation. He hesitated, then said, "But..." Sister Ning cut him off. "No further explanations. I promise things won't get worse than before." With that, Lai Chang reluctantly accepted. He chose to remain silent, lowering his head in obedience, though inside, he still had many questions. Now, Ning started to get more excited. She moved closer to Lai Chang, the tall and handsome guy, and softly whispered as she brought her small lips near his ear, "What's wrong?" Still thinking about doing something else, feeling like she had seen right through him, Lai Chang turned bright red, sweating nervously. He didn't dare to do anything. Despite the clear green light from her side, Lai Chang was flustered. He quickly rushed toward the door, trying to distance himself from Ning as much as possible. He waved his hand and said, "Ah, sorry, Ning." He slammed the door shut with a decisive and silly move, leaving Ning alone with the shell full of water. After stepping out of the room, Lai Chang's face was still flushed. He felt both embarrassed and self-reproachful. "Damn, look at my memory. I forgot to ask her about that." Inside, in the room next to Ning's, after hearing Lai Chang's conversation, a man's voice burst into loud laughter from behind the door. A woman's footprints, huh? "Ha ha, you were too careless." Ning immediately shouted at the person in the room, "You're more careful than me." "Fine, then from now on, you handle this." Inside the room, there was a bald man. He was wearing an apron and happily chopping up human flesh. This person seemed to have lost all sense of humanity. He was doing it with cold, calm precision, chopping swiftly with one hand and tossing the pieces into a bin, all while casually dividing up the work. "All right, I'll go kill. You handle the rest." It turned out that the recent disappearances within the gang were the result of the two leaders conspiring to slaughter their own underlings. With fresh meat to eat, it could evolve. The thing he just tossed into the trash bin was the head of the man who had been killed earlier. The air was thick with the stench of blood and decay. Cut to another scene, where the sound of someone being quickly and efficiently taken down could be heard. A zombie collapsed at Jiang Xiao Yong's feet, completely defeated. Its grotesque face slammed into the ground. Xiao Yong had finally made it to the steel factory in the west. He held a sharp, heated iron rod in his hand, and at his feet were scattered zombie corpses surrounded by pools of black blood. Xiao Yong's expression remained calm as he looked ahead, muttering to himself, "Almost there. Just need to hold back a little longer." On his hand, Jiang Xiao Yong used his ability to summon a small pair of scissors from the system. Snip, snip. So skillfully, Xiao Yong expertly trimmed his own hair with just one hand. He must have learned this somewhere, because the way the scissors moved was incredibly smooth. Then he pointed two fingers out and rubbed them against the ground. He deliberately smeared some black dirt on his hands, then raised them to his face, drawing a few lines on his forehead and cheek. Jiang Xiao Yong was intentionally disguising himself to avoid trouble. After a while, he had transformed into a whole new look, one that seemed a bit worn out with a dirty face and clothes. He even added a pair of glasses to make himself harder to recognize, but his cool and handsome vibe was still undeniable. Once the disguise was complete, he took a few steps toward the factory gate when someone stepped forward, pointed at him, and shouted, "Stop!" Jiang Xiaoyong halted immediately. Seeing a stranger entering the compound, the local thug immediately became aggressive. He scowled and, without missing a beat, yelled, "Who are you?" His eyes were filled with hostility as they glared at Xiaoyong. Time to switch into actor mode. Jiang Xiaoyong smiled, his eyes narrowing playfully. Trying to ease the tension with the person in front of him, he said, "I noticed signs of life around here, and sure enough, there are people. That's great." He even acted a bit overly excited, as if genuinely pleased. This person was pretty easy to manipulate. As soon as he heard Jiang Xiaoyong say that, his face relaxed. He responded, looking disappointed, "Oh, so you're just a wandering survivor." Then the gatekeeper pointed at Xiaoyong and asked, "Hey, kid, let me ask you, how did you survive all this time?" Right away, this guy was acting like a big shot in front of the main character. Xiaoyong tried to look humble and sincere. He slowed down for a second, bowed his head, and started making up a tragic story. "My group originally had more than a dozen people. We were attacked by a horde of zombies. Everyone died, and I was the only one who managed to escape." His face looked genuinely sad, like he was really feeling the pain. He'd also picked up some information about this new person. The gatekeeper continued with his questioning. "So, you don't have any special abilities?" Xiaonan was taken off guard by this question. He was just playing the part of a regular person in trouble, so he couldn't help but ask back, "What you mean abilities?" Then he suddenly became a bit awkward, raised his hands, and said, "Ah, I do have some abilities. I've been attacked by zombies a few times, and over time, I've gained some experience on how to deal with them. I'll try my best to be useful." Seeing Xiaolang's awkward behavior, the man sneered with a smirk. He clearly didn't think much of Xiaoyong and stepped in closer, becoming more dangerous. With a slight grin, he said something strange. "Who asked you about that? You don't get what I mean, but that's fine." Thinking he was about to win over this new prey, Gatekeeper felt a sense of excitement inside. He pointed inside and said, "Follow me. If you want to join, you'll need to pass the test." Now, Xiaoyong was getting closer to the heart of their base. He subtly reached into his waistband where he kept a pistol. The guard at the gate didn't suspect a thing. He just assumed Xiaoyong was another ordinary guy, happy to have a new target to trap. This was enough to show that Xiaoyong, despite his worn-out and expressionless appearance, was carefully observing everything inside while pretending to be clueless. "Haha, sure enough, this steel factory in the west isn't a good place at all," he thought to himself. Things were going smoothly when suddenly a voice shouted, "What's going on here?" Both of them turned around in surprise. The guard, upon hearing the tone of the voice, immediately turned around, a bit nervous. Xiaodan, however, was intrigued. Seeing a stranger appear at the base, Lai Cheng immediately stepped forward, his face tense. He approached the guard and asked, "Who's this unfamiliar face?" The gatekeeper looked a little scared upon seeing Lai Cheng. As a subordinate, he had a certain amount of respect for him. His expression was stiff as he awkwardly reported, "Ah, Mr. Lai, he's a wandering survivor. I was just taking him to be checked out in a quiet area." Xiaodong couldn't help but smirk to himself. "Haha, checked out." Lai Cheng felt a bit uneasy and frustrated. He spoke again to the gatekeeper. "Why did the inspection have to happen in a secluded spot? Can't we just do it right here? It's strange. There's tension between two people from the same base." Jiang Xiaoyong quickly picked up on the gatekeeper's intentions. He thought to himself, "This person clearly meant to leave me somewhere quiet to kill me." So Lai Cheng confronted Jiang Xiaoyong directly. He stepped closer to Xiaoyong and said, "Come here, hand over your weapons, and you can enter." Xiaoyong remained calm. He put on a simple, innocent expression and asked, "Hand over my weapons? How do I know you're not trying to trick me into a place where you'll kill me?" Li Cheng wasn't like many others. His approach, though serious, was humane and straightforward. He didn't force Xiaoyong's hand and instead replied, "In these end times, it's only natural for you to be suspicious. If you're not comfortable handing over your weapons, I won't force you. In that case, you're free to leave." Li Cheng's firm and strong attitude pushed Jiang Xiaoyong to reluctantly hand over the knife he was secretly carrying. He tried to show his discontent as he handed over his last weapon, playing the role of the victim. Xiaoyong said, "Fine, I'll give you the weapon." A moment later, Lai Cheng thoroughly searched Jiang Xiaoyong. He wanted to be absolutely sure that Xiaoyong wasn't hiding any weapons. Xiaoyong calmly spread his arms wide, allowing Lai Cheng to check him thoroughly. Behind his cracked glasses, Jiang Xiaoyong's gaze was slightly irritated. He quietly assessed Lai Chang and the place around him. This guy still seems to have some principles. Looks like this steel factory in the west is a bit different from the scum at Bitch Tway Mountain and the southern coal mine. After a long while, everything was finally settled. Lai Chang raised the knife Xiao Yong had handed over, feeling a bit curious. To think you can walk around with just a dagger in this end-of-days world. "You're an evolved one, huh?" he asked. Jiang Xiao Yong played innocent, tightening his fist and pretending not to understand. He said a few things that could easily be misinterpreted. "Evolved? Oh, I honestly feel a lot stronger now." His simple act made Lai Chang lower his guard. With a wave of his hand, he said, "Follow me. There are rules here. Evolved ones need to report to the leader first." A few minutes later, Lai Chang led Jiang Xiao Yong into a dark room. He let Xiao Yong in, but stayed outside to keep watch. Lai Chang leaned in and said, "Wait here in the living room for a bit." Xiao Yong gave a faint smile, glancing at the chair in the corner. Above it, a tightly shut window. He spoke sarcastically. "The living room, huh? Ha ha ha." The doors reinforced. "This is clearly a prison, isn't it?" Xiao Yong could tell exactly what they were up to, but he wasn't worried in the slightest. After these words, the bald man walked in. At first, he tried to act very polite and gentle. "Sorry to keep you waiting. May I have your name?" On the surface, he seemed polite, but deep down, his fake smile was hiding a hunger for human flesh that ran deep within him. Xiao Yong turned to respond, stuttering. "Jiang, no, Jiang Yi." This nervous reaction from Xiao Yong made the bald man feel that he was dealing with an easy, weak prey. The bald man then spoke again in a mocking tone. "My people told me you're an evolved one, right?" Xiao Yong lowered his head weakly and replied, "Well, that's what he thinks maybe." Before Xiao Yong could catch his breath to say more, a heavy axe flew toward him at incredible speed, nearly grazing his face. As he looked up, Xiao Yong was taken by surprise. His eyes widened as he realized what had just happened. For Xiao Yong, such moments were normal. He simply tilted his head slightly to avoid the swift attack from the bald man. When he turned back, he saw that the axe, large and sharp, had been thrown with great force and had lodged deeply into the wall behind him. Xiao Yong was still shocked by the suddenness of the attack. If Jiang Xiao Yong had been someone less alert, he would probably be dead by now. Xiao Yong's gaze grew wary as he looked at the menacing bald man. He eyed him cautiously, his suspicion rising. Xiao Yong thought to himself, "Should I fight now? No, wait, he's probably testing me." Meanwhile, the bald man's face was a mix of anger and excitement. Quick to react, Xiao Yong tried to appear innocent. He pointed at the axe stuck firmly in the wall and shouted, "Hey, what are you doing? That's dangerous." The bald man suddenly changed his attitude. He opened his mouth and flashed a bright smile, laughing loudly. "Ha ha! Looks like I wasn't wrong. You're definitely an evolved person." The bald man seemed to have no respect for human life at all. This bothered Xiao Yong, but he kept up his act. Pointing to himself, Xiao Yong confronted the bald man directly and asked, "So, what if I'm not an evolved person? Wouldn't you have already killed me?" The bald man was completely calm. He spread his arms wide and raised his voice, speaking in a tone as if he had lost all humanity. If that were the case, then your death wouldn't be a big deal. It was clear to Xiao Yong that this man had stopped being human. Now, in his eyes, there was a natural flush, and his voice began to deepen as he asked with a sense of reasoning, "Since we're both evolved beings, you must know how one becomes evolved, right?" Xiao Yong replied, "Oh, I know." It was clear that Xiao Yong was also an evolved being. This person started talking about his gang and his power. "Then I have to warn you. Only a few people know this secret of mine, and I don't want it spreading. If I find out more people know, I'll kill you." With that, the bald man leaned forward and quickly moved in to approach Jiang Xiao Yong. He was aggressive and kept trying to provoke Xiao Yong, attempting to grab him by the throat. However, Xiao Yong was quick and agile. He tilted his body slightly to the side, dodging the man's grip, but he did make a move to strike back. In the moment when it seemed like the bald man was about to capture him, he was utterly shocked to find that Xiao Yong was incredibly calm. In a brief pause, Xiao Yong quickly summoned a dagger from the system. He drew it swiftly, all while gathering strength in his right arm, his sharp gaze locked on the bald man. He thought to himself, "Good thing he tried to scare me with his bare hands. If it were a blade, I would have already counterattacked." To let the bald guy grab his neck, Jiang Xiao Yong made a scared expression. He even acted weak, but inside, he was thinking, if I kill him now, who knows if I'll still complete the 80-point system mission. When the bald guy saw the dagger, he looked a little nervous. His eyes were glued to the small knife in Xiao Yong's hand, and he quickly pulled his hand back, visibly scared. He then commented, "Oh, not bad. You're quick to react. Got your weapons out, huh? Guess I won't be underestimating you anymore." The bald guy put his hand on Jiang Xiao Yong's shoulder, acting like a seer giving advice. He praised Xiao Yang. Even if you have some skills, my strength is beyond what you can imagine. Don't even think about challenging me, got it? Xiao Yang lowered his head and replied, got it. The bald guy softened his tone and added, as for bringing weapons in here, I won't pursue it any further. He stepped out of the small enclosed room and went back to where his subordinates were. With a sharp tone, he ordered, take Jiang Yi to wash up, change clothes, and bring him to the meeting room to see me. Xiao Yang stepped out last, slowly closing the door behind him. He had gained the trust of the leader, and it seemed like his plan was progressing smoothly. The subordinates all responded in unison, yes. The bald man tapped his head and called out loudly, come in. One of the subordinates, following orders, escorted Jiang Xiao Yong to the bald leader. Boss, the person you asked for is here, he said happily, introducing Jiang Xiao Yong to everyone. This is the new member, Jiang Yi. He then turned and introduced Jiang Xiao Yong to a woman named Ning. Huang Ning is also one of the leaders here, just like me, he said, glancing behind him and continuing. The other two are staff members from the base, Lai Cheng and Huang Ban. Ning, with a stern expression, looked at Jiang Xiaoyong without showing any emotion. She then turned to another subordinate, Huang Ban. She carefully spoke up, addressing him, Huang Ban, is it all right for this new guy to work under you? Huang Ban, seeing the new arrival, immediately looked displeased and tense, responding curtly, no problem. The conversation was over. Now Ning turned back and spoke softly to Jiang Xiaoyong, saying, kid, you're really lucky. You found the strongest gathering point in this area. From now on, you won't have to worry about survival anymore. Jiang Xiaoyong's face also became serious. He acted as if he deeply respected her words. Then she continued reminding him, but if you want to enjoy the good things here, you'll need to prove yourself useful. At this point, Jiang Xiaoyong seized the opportunity. He appeared very cautious, bowing his head to accept her offer. I'll follow your arrangements. His acting was flawless, giving the impression that he was fully committed to joining their group. Once the arrangements were made, Huang Ban approached Jiang Xiaoyong and patted him on the shoulder. He whispered, it just so happens that it's our turn to patrol today. New guy, follow me. A moment later, the scene shifted to the area outside the factory. The greenery was vibrant, and the sky was clear and sunny. A subordinate's voice rang out, Chang Hung, let's head out for patrol. The other man replied, okay. The subordinate, puzzled, asked, who's this guy? It was no surprise that the subordinate under Huang Ban had been the gate guard when Jiang Xiaoyong first entered the factory. As soon as he saw Jiang Xiaoyong, he didn't like him, so he leaned toward Huang Ban and whispered, hey, is this guy assigned to work under you? The Huang Ban wasn't happy about it. He responded, clearly irritated, what can we do? The guy knows a bit of everything. He's got to work in our team. Behind them, Jiang Xiaoyong walked alongside the person who had infiltrated the main character's base. The man seemed puzzled, feeling that the person in front of him looked a bit familiar. He glanced at Jiang Xiaoyong with suspicion and thought to himself, why does this guy look so familiar? After walking for a bit, Huang Ban turned around and asked Xiaoyong, hey kid, did the boss not explain the situation here at the camp to you? Jiang Xiaoyong hesitantly replied, no, he just warned me to keep the fact that I've evolved the secret. Huang Ban seemed more certain now and responded, well, that's correct. At that moment, his expression changed, becoming more intense and a little darker. He continued, the only people who know about the secret of cannibalism in this camp, besides the boss and my sister, are the 4 people here with us. Now that everything was clear, Huang Ban pointed behind him and started introducing everyone in a friendlier tone. Aheng is the boss's cousin, Phut Kang is my nephew, and Huang Ning my sister. We're all family. So if this secret gets out, it'll be on you. Got it? Do you understand your situation now? It seemed like everyone here was part of the same inner circle. Jiang Xiaoyong realized the gravity of his position and responded as he walked along, yeah, don't worry, I won't say anything. Jiang Xiaoyong then recognized the person in the apron. He glanced at him and whispered to himself, wait a second, isn't Aheng the guy who was caught by the Jiangzi group earlier? Curious, Jiang Xiaoyong asked about the earlier officer. So, who was the guy from earlier? Huang Ban eagerly explained, that was Lai Cheng. Haha, he's just an outsider, but he's got good potential and strong abilities. He added with emphasis, but make sure he never learns the secret. Got it? If not, his expression tightened, clearly trying to intimidate Jiang Xiaoyong. Now, the expression on this person's face looked very aggressive. He lowered his voice, speaking quietly, but in a way that was still very threatening. Neither of you will make it through today. Having already understood the workings of this organization, Jiang Xiaoyong kept silent after hearing these words, though his mind was racing. It seemed clear that Lai Cheng's abilities were indeed very strong. The only way to hold him back would be through resources. Otherwise, the two leaders would soon find themselves surpassed by him. As they continued talking, they finally reached their destination. Huang Ban led the way and called out loudly, "All right, we're here." Xiao Yong looked around, puzzled. He looked up and asked loudly, "We're here." Ahead of him stood a new base surrounded by tall trees. The place was large and well built. Huang Ban introduced it. "There are 7 members in this concentration area. We've been observing them for 3 or 4 days now. Among them, there doesn't seem to be anyone who has evolved." Jiang Xiao Yong didn't quite understand, so he leaned in and asked quietly, "What are we supposed to do? Hunt them down?" Huang Ban raised 2 fingers and waved them around, responding in a carefree tone. "Hunt them? Ha ha, it's not as brutal as you think. We need to cage them." At this, Fa Chang, feeling upbeat, put his arm around Jiang Xiao Yong's shoulder, boosted his spirits, and began to encourage him. "Kid, you're one of us now, an evolved one. You need to change your mindset. Don't be so stiff like Lai Cheng." These words helped Jiang Xiao Yong understand a lot more about Lai Cheng's personality. Fa Chang, now acting like the seasoned veteran, continued to give advice. "We're evolved beings, which means we're no longer the same as humans. Now, we're a higher species in the food chain." That was enough for Jiang Xiao Yong to get the idea. He looked up toward the base and briefly glanced at it, then clearly stated their plan. He wanted to take them back to the holding camp to lock them up, and maybe even butcher them later. Perfect. Fa Chang grinned ominously. At this point, Huang Ban raised 4 fingers and turned back to clarify. "We don't need to bring them all back, just 5 or 6. The rest we can handle right here." The way these people talked about dealing with humans was like they were talking about chickens or ducks. Jiang Xiaoyang, wanting to be sure, asked again, "Handle them right here? What do you mean by that?" This was the perfect opportunity to show off. Huang Ban raised his hand high, his face clearly showing excitement as he spoke. He didn't elaborate, but instead raised his voice and said, "Ha ha, make sure you learn properly." Jiang Xiaoyang calmly narrowed his eyes at the man, but tried to hide his irritation. A little later, on the brick wall of the base, which was about to be attacked by a group of people, the team was still working hard to strengthen their defenses. One young man who had been working all day was looking very relaxed despite the fatigue. He sighed, closed his eyes, yawned, and muttered, "Finally, almost done. This is exhausting." It seemed like everything was going as usual, but then something unexpected happened. The commander pointed ahead with a pale expression. His face was drenched in cold sweat as he exclaimed, There they are." Behind him, several people were also paying attention and looking ahead. In front of them was a whole group of filthy zombies. They were like starving ghosts charging towards the group of people eagerly attacking. They scrambled and rushed forward, fighting to catch human flesh. Many of their faces were crushed and covered in blood, looking truly horrifying. The group of people in the base was completely stunned. They were caught off guard by this sudden attack. The men grabbed their weapons to defend themselves, shouting in confusion and surprise. "Damn it, how did these zombies attack us like this?" And there were no signs beforehand. "Get ready to fight." Strangely, the speed of these zombies was no joke. They had been a distance away not long ago, but in the blink of an eye, they were already right in front of them. Their mouths, full of sharp teeth, opened wide, exhaling a putrid stench of rotting flesh as they lunged forward, attacking the innocent people. One zombie saw an opportunity and lunged at a young man. In a panic, he quickly pulled out his gun to protect himself, his face filled with pure terror as death seemed just moments away. Don't come any closer." All around them, zombies were attacking. Many people here couldn't hold their ground. The young man, still in disbelief, looked around with a pale face and muttered in fear, "This is bad, there's too many of them." Beneath him, he could hear the choking, labored breaths of his comrades. Meanwhile, the group led by Huang Ban stood calmly in the back, watching the chaos unfold with complete ease. In fact, Huang Ban had a satisfied, almost enjoying expression on his face. Jiang Xiaoyang couldn't stand to watch this any longer. He spoke up. "So, this is the great plan you guys were talking about to deal with the zombies?" Huang Ban kept waving his hands and gesturing. He looked up at the area where the base had been attacked and calmly said, "The resources in the concentration area are also limited. We can't keep taking in more people to feed. Besides, if more than 10 people join at once to form a small faction, it would be bad for management." The logic behind what these people were saying made sense for their long-term survival. However, it lacked any compassion. Now Huang Ban, leading Fa Chang and A Heng, knew it was the right time for them to step in. Huang Ban's face showed a dangerous, calculating expression as he said loudly, "All right, it's time for us to make our move." Fa Chang, behind him, rolled his wrists, clearly excited about what was about to happen. Ahead of them, a girl was being attacked by zombies. She was held tight by 2 of them, helplessly screaming, "Ah! Please no." The mindless, emotionless zombies were attacking her aggressively. Tears welled up in the girl's eyes as she cried out in desperation. But in just a second, the heads of the two zombies were ripped off their necks. A flash of light passed by. The girl, in shock from what had just happened, turned to see the head of one of the zombies that had been about to bite her, now rolling on the ground. The sight terrified her. She quickly gathered herself, her face still filled with astonishment. Fa Qiang arrived just in time, stepping in front of the girl and making it clear that he was the one who had helped her. He extended his hand toward her with a warm and gentle expression. The girl leaned forward, her voice trembling as she weakly asked, Did you save me? Meanwhile, Huang Ban and A Hang took care of the zombies they had just dealt with. They didn't say anything and acted like they were simply helping people from the base. The young man who had seen the stranger shouted, Who are you? One by one, the zombie heads hit the ground with a dull thud. In no time, they had finished off the zombies. For Huang Ban's group, taking out a few zombies was no big deal. Now, Huang Ban stepped forward and took the lead. He pointed to himself and introduced, We're the evolved ones from the steel factory to the west. They played the role of heroes, saving those in danger. The girl who had just been saved, along with the young men from the base, were all curious and confused when they heard evolved ones. They quickly asked, Evolved ones? What does that mean? Their faces showed a mix of admiration and gratitude. Then they began cheering and shouting, We've been saved. Thank you. Observing the situation, Jiang Xiao Yong put on a very cold expression, showing no signs of emotion. However, inside, he assessed that these people had the physical stamina of individuals in their 20s. These three were just as strong as Jiang Zi and the others. Caught up in the scheming of these tricksters, Jiang Xiao Yong's sharp instincts told him something wasn't quite right behind him. He let out a small sound in his mind, his expression full of suspicion. Then suddenly, a tall building appeared behind him, with a room on top that suddenly lit up. It seemed like the main character, Jiang Xiao Yong, felt something odd. He turned around in shock, completely startled, silently shouting inside his mind, What is that? He looked closely at the windows in the building, but suddenly couldn't see anything at all. There were no figures in the rooms, just a faint, flickering light remaining. After the surprise, Jiang Xiao Yong finally regained his composure. Staring up blankly, he mumbled to himself, Was that an illusion? Seeing Xiao Yong distracted, Huang Ban called out, Hey, Jiang Yi, what are you standing there for? In a split second, the soul hung upside down from a tree branch, and the group of people had approached closer to the base. Many of the fallen had already died, scattered across the ground. Huang Ban pointed and said, Come over here. Help me take care of this. Jiang Xiao Yong walked over and replied, All right, I'm on my way. As Jiang Xiao Yong left, he sensed something ominous near the building complex. However, he decided to prioritize working with Huang Ban's group first. Inside the room just ahead was the figure of a zombie monster with many tentacles, which the people in the factory area had been whispering about for the past few days. This creature was huge, with a grotesquely distorted face, making it truly terrifying. It was incredibly hungry for human flesh and was preparing for a surprise attack. What's worse, the air here reeked of fresh, blood-soaked flesh. After gaining the trust of the people in the base, Huang Ban's group now led them around with complete control. A man from the base who had been attacked spoke up to Huang Ban. There are still some supplies in the warehouse. Huang Ban turned and, with a serious expression, gave an order to Jiang Xiaoyang. Jiang Yi, stay here and gather all the supplies from this place to the gate. I'll arrange a truck to transport them soon. Then the man leaned close to Jiang Xiaoyang and whispered to him, The body of the person who was killed is piled up over there, ready to be moved later. His expression is twisted, definitely looks like he's craving human flesh. Jiang Xiaoyang's face remained emotionless. He gave a soft but deep down he was already disgusted by these scum. At that moment, Huang Ban pointed behind him and ordered, The rest of you, come with us. The knave group still believed they were being helped. As soon as they were told to follow, they eagerly and cheerfully agreed. All of them left, leaving Jiang Xiaoyang alone with the scattered zombies. Now in the silence and desolation of the scene, Huang Ban's cruel plan had succeeded. Once he confirmed that he was the only one left, Jiang Xiaoyang summoned a small knife in his hand for the system. He looked at the zombies around him and smiled faintly, saying, Just right. Meanwhile, back at Huang Ban's location, they had already led the group to the factory area. The man who had been tricked still seemed very naive. He happily followed Huang Ban, repeatedly expressing his gratitude, saying, We're so lucky to have you guys. You saved our lives. The others behind him agreed wholeheartedly. Huang Ban remained silent, pretending not to notice. The girl was saved by Fa Qiang's timely intervention. At this point, feeling uncomfortable and trusting him to be a good person, she asked him, Hey, is there water where we're going? Can we take a bath? Fa Kang smiled warmly, showing a friendly expression, then his playful side came out. He wrapped his arms around the poor girl and, getting closer, said, "Not only is there water, but there's also hot water. Plus, there's shower gel, so you'll be able to take a nice, refreshing bath." The girl felt a little awkward due to his sudden action, but responded, "Really? That's great." Everything seemed to be going according to plan when suddenly, a Hang seemed to sense something wasn't quite right behind them. He froze in place, a cold chill running down his spine. He quickly turned around, wide-eyed, trying to figure out what was going on. He showed clear signs of confusion and caution, letting out a loud humph. Noticing a Hang's strange behavior, Huang Ban turned to him and asked cautiously, "What's wrong, a Hang?" A Hang stood there, drenched in cold sweat, staring ahead, hesitating before he spoke. "There's something." Right after that, Huang Ban shouted a warning to everyone. "Be alert." Everyone behind immediately switched to a defensive mode. At this moment, Fa Chang, taking advantage of the situation, tightly embraced the only girl in the group of victims. He continued to push things too far and said, "Stay behind me. I'll protect you." The girl seemed somewhat uncomfortable, and one of the team members was starting to see Fa Chang's true nature. However, they felt too weak to resist at the moment. From above, the group could be seen gathered together with several dark figures swirling around, casting strange shadows on the ground below. Now, everyone sensed that there was danger, but they couldn't pinpoint exactly where it was coming from. Huang Ban spoke up, "Where's the thing you're talking about?" A Hang responded, "I don't know, I can't sense it." Fa Chang, being younger, was the most carefree. At the moment, he just wanted to get to the factory as quickly as possible. Seeing a Hang deep in thought, Fa Chang laughed and said, "Ha ha, a Hang, are you sure you're not overreacting?" A Hang turned around. His expression clearly showed that he knew the situation could not be taken lightly. He responded, clearly worried, "I'm not wrong. It was definitely there earlier." Just as he finished speaking, something large and long suddenly shot past a Hang's neck. He froze, completely caught off guard by the speed of the danger. Everyone else, witnessing this terrifying scene, screamed in shock. A Hang. At that moment, it became clear that the object that had just ended a Hang's life was a long, thick tentacle. As it withdrew, a Hang collapsed. Huang Ban, stunned, shouted, "It's the tentacle monster!" In just a few breaths, a life was taken. The situation left everyone panicked and terrified for their own lives. Under the bright sun, Huang Ban muttered in shock, "Has it disappeared? Its speed is unbelievable." Just after this, Fa Kang yelled, "Behind you!" Huang Ban quickly turned around and froze. The face of the tentacle monster, with its large eye and countless white circles, was right in front of him. The monster pressed its long, seal-like teeth close to Huang Ban's face. He turned and came face to face with that terrifying, grotesque face, completely stunned. Meanwhile, at another location, Jiang Xiao Yong was calmly using a small knife to handle the zombie corpses. He was searching for the zombies' special energy crystals. He had already found 2 good ones. Holding them in his hand, Jiang Xiao Yong said, "2 energy crystals in these zombies, what luck." As he was admiring the crystals, he suddenly heard cries for help coming from Huang Ban's direction. "Help me." Xiao Yang, curious, glanced over. On this side, Huang Ban was about to meet his end. He was tightly wrapped up by the tentacle monster, and now he was witnessing with his own eyes the creature he had only heard about in rumors. Huang Ban was so terrified that his face turned pale. He could barely speak, only managing to stammer a few words, "It's over." In front of everyone there, the tentacle monster appeared and grabbed Huang Ban. It squeezed his body tightly, breaking his bones into pieces. Huang Ban screamed in pain as the massive monster, with its muscular build and covered in long, slimy black tentacles, squeezed even harder, finishing him off. The girl and the young men in the group that Huang Ban had led watched in shock. They were both scared and stunned, their mouths hanging open, unable to do anything but stare. Huang Ban's red cerubi blood splattered across their faces. Just moments ago, they had barely escaped death, thinking they would finally be safe and have an easier time. But they never expected to encounter the most powerful monster in the area. The faces of the young man and the girl in the group were full of sorrow. They seemed to understand what their own fate would be next. Now, the disgusting monster turned its head and looked at Fa Qian. Its body was covered in foul black blood, and had countless tentacles, large and small, growing all over it, making it look grotesque. Fa Chang, marked as the next target, was pale and too scared to even breathe too heavily. Now that he realized he was the next target, Fa Chang froze, his whole body suddenly heavy. He took slow steps backward, his face pale, gritting his teeth as he muttered, "No way, it can't be." Then, unexpectedly, he grabbed the girl behind him, causing her to jump in shock. Just moments ago, he had been sweet-talking her with love and affection, but now, when danger struck, his true nature showed. He roughly tossed the girl into the monster's tentacles, sacrificing her to save himself. Immediately, the monster grabbed the girl, lifting her up. Its tentacles tightly bound her arms and legs and slowly began to choke her. The girl struggled in pain, but it was useless. She screamed desperately, "Ah! Ah!" The tentacles tightened with every passing moment, squeezing her skin, causing so much pain that she could barely breathe. The poor girl cried silently, her body racked with agony. She could only endure the excruciating pain. Eventually, when she couldn't take it anymore, her strength ran out and her eyes rolled back as she was on the verge of death. At that moment, a force from somewhere struck the monster. By sheer luck, the girl was suddenly released from its grip, and she fell, landing hard on her backside. The girl and the people in her base were completely stunned. Jiang Xiao Yong arrived just in time and managed to save her by a hair. Several black tentacles of the monster fell to the ground with a thud. Everyone's attention turned to him. As soon as Fa Kang saw Xiao Yong, he was both surprised and relieved, shouting, "Jiang Yi, is that you?" Jiang Xiao Yong appeared holding a small dagger. He pressed his lips tightly together and looked at them. Standing with his back to the monster and facing the group, he raised his hand and asked loudly, "Is this the tentacle monster you all keep talking about?" Fa Chang, still shaken, pointed in another direction and stammered, "No, not this one. It's the son of the tentacle monster." Jiang Xiao Yong was surprised. He frowned, cautious, and asked again, "The son?" Fa Chang quickly responded, "Yes, that's what we call it." Then he went on to explain more about the truly dangerous creature. The tentacle monster often muttered, "Son, son," and could transform ordinary zombies into monsters with similar traits to itself. We call these transformed creatures the sons of the tentacle. Now, on Fa Chang's face, there was nothing but frustration and fear. Both of his relatives had been killed by the tentacle monster's son. Fa Chang lowered his head, lost in cowardly thoughts. The son of the tentacle monster was a powerful creature that even a Huang and Huang Ban couldn't handle. This kid, Jiang Yi, was definitely no match for it. "I can't stay. I have to run." With that thought, the cowardly Fa Kang decided that he'd do whatever it took to survive. He turned and fled first. People in the base who had been caught off guard looked on as he ran. While sprinting for his life, he shouted, "Jiang Yi, hold him off. I'll go get help." The girl he had saved looked on in confusion as well. Now, everyone was more concerned about saving themselves than anything else, so they'd all turned and ran. The only one who stayed calm was Jiang Xiao Yong. He remained still, watching the others panic. As he saw the fearful people running away, Jiang Xiao Yong knew exactly what Fa Kang was up to. He wasn't surprised and simply said, "Now you're trying to sell everyone out, trying to use this time to run away." Behind Jiang Xiao Yong, the tentacle monster's son started to move, letting out a series of growls. A moment later, it shot out several dark, slimy tentacles, wrapping them around Jiang Xiao Yong's neck. Jiang Xiao Yong was aware of this, but he didn't rush to react. In just a split second, the creature's foul, black tentacles had wrapped around his arms and legs. But Xiao Yong didn't make a move. He slowly turned his face to look at the creature, taking his time, yet the speed and confidence in his demeanor still gave off a terrifying presence. Looking at the monstrous zombie, Jiang Xiao Yong smiled slightly and said, "Son of a monster, ha ha ha, your setup is way too terrifying." Then Jiang Xiao Yong raised his hand and yanked forcefully. In his other hand, he held a small combat knife. The tentacles were quickly ripped off. With a single motion, the giant monster was pulled by the force of Jiang Xiao Yong's strength. At this point, Xiao Yong's power was no joke. With just a single tug, the zombie lost its balance and was sent stumbling toward him, still confused and disoriented by this new opponent. Its eyes were wide open, dazed, as if it couldn't comprehend what was happening. Jiang Xiao Yong's pull was so strong that the massive creature couldn't resist. Its feet slid across the ground. To Jiang Xiao Yong, it all seemed effortless. He tensed his arm against the creature's dark tentacle and casually said, as if seizing an opportunity, "The ability I unlocked before Heyman had the chance to use it yet. Today's the perfect time to test it on you." Jiang Xiao Yong shouted as he slammed his feet down hard, creating a shockwave so strong that the ground beneath him cracked. In that moment, a fierce, lightning-like gleam flashed in his eyes through his glasses. With a loud yell, Jiang Xiao Yong's energy overloaded. He bent down, flexing his muscles and bracing his arms. He pulled hard, sending the monstrous creature flying toward him. It was completely under his control. The massive, grotesque body of the monster scraped against the ground, moving like a puppet, helpless and resigned. As the creature's head, full of wriggling tentacles, lunged toward him, Jiang Xiao Yong forcefully stopped it with his foot, keeping a safe distance between them. Even though the tentacles tightly wrapped around his arms and legs, he moved with ease. He pressed his foot firmly against the creature's head and glared at it with a cold, murderous look. The monster, still defiant, laughed loudly in a mocking manner. Watching Jiang Xiao Yong's strength, the girl from the base, who had been under attack, was completely stunned. She covered her mouth with both hands, unable to speak. It was the first time she had ever witnessed a human with such power. The battle continued with Xiao Yang, who stood triumphantly on top of the monster after relentlessly attacking it. He then began tearing off each of its tentacles, leaving it in a pitiful state. After a while, the ground was scattered with the monster's broken tentacles and its mutilated face. Jiang Xiao Yong was covered in the monster's syrup-like substance, but he paid no attention to it as he approached the girl, asking with genuine concern, "Are you okay?" His appearance startled her, and she quickly stepped back in fear. Still innocent and unaware, Jiang Xiao Yong awkwardly reached out to check if she was hurt. Terrified, the girl screamed, "Ah, ah, ah!" Realizing something was wrong, Jiang Xiao Yong wiped the syrup from his hands and nervously tried to reassure her. Don't panic, I'm a person, not a monster." A long while later, outside the gate, Fuck Khan finally arrived with his brute rushing in to kill the monster. They were out of breath, shouting as they ran, "We're here! We'd finally made it." Fuck Kang led the bald man and Sister Ning in, with Lai Cheng following behind to provide support. The bald man, holding an axe, shouted angrily, "What's going on here?" Sister Ning, carrying a sword over her shoulder, immediately asked, "Where are Huang Ban and Ahang?" Fuck Kang pointed toward the chaos, tears streaming down his face as he reported uncle and brother Ahang were both killed by the tentacle monster. Only Lai Cheng remembered Xiao Yang. After hearing this, he asked Fuck Kang, "What about the person named Jiang Yi who just arrived?" Without much thought, Fuck Kang answered casually, "He's probably dead too. The three of us weren't strong enough to fight that tentacle monster." Hearing that his subordinates had suffered losses, the bald man couldn't hide his anger. He lowered his head, his face turning purple with rage. But now the monster was too powerful for him to do anything. He lifted his head and glared at the people in the base. He stared at them for a long time, and the air was thick with tension. Dangerous silence hung over them. The bald man gritted his teeth and, in a harsh voice, began to place blame. "This is all because of." Hearing this, the two young men started to realize that their leader was about to lose control. They turned pale with fear, cold sweat pouring down their faces as they anxiously waited. The bald man screamed, "It's your fault." At the same time, he threw his axe with all his might, the fury and frustration of the moment fueling the powerful throw, aiming it at the innocent people in front of him. The large axe struck directly into the chest of a young man standing in front, instantly splitting his body in half. Red syrup splattered everywhere. The way the bald man finished off the person was no less brutal than a monster would do. Seeing things were going off track, Ning immediately shouted to hold the man back. "Eagle, calm down." The man was extremely angry and frustrated. He clenched his fists tightly, trying to suppress his fury. The people around him were also panicking. Thud! A bundle of tentacles tied together like a bunch of vegetables was thrown in front of the bald man. He was so furious, and suddenly seeing this in front of him caught him off guard. He squinted, trying to make sense of it. It was Jiang Xiao Yong, and this grabbed everyone's attention, making them look at him. With the tentacles in front, everyone was curious and confused. Jiang Xiao Yong appeared boldly before them, and behind him was the girl from the base who had been harmed. Xiao Yong walked forward confidently, showing off the results of his actions. Li Cheng saw Jiang Xiao Yong and smiled warmly. "Jiang Yi, you're not dead." He was the first to express concern for Xiao Yong and check on him. At this point, Ning began to make a realization. Looking at the black tentacles, her face scrunched up as she struggled to speak. "That's..." Standing proudly in front of his prize, Jiang Xiao Yong spoke boldly to everyone. "That tentacle monster, I've already killed it. The revenge for the two of you, I've already taken care of it." Instead of feeling grateful for Xiao Yang avenging their loved ones, Sister Ning and the bald man were more concerned about Jiang Xiao Yong's strength. Both of them stayed silent, deep in thought, exchanging a shared worry. Is this person really that powerful? Sensing the awkward tension in the air, Jiang Xiao Yang, instead of expecting thanks for his help, stood with his hand on his hip and added, "All right then, leaders, please quickly arrange for a vehicle and people to help me go back and collect the spoils." Once everything was wrapped up and they returned to the factory, the bald man and Sister Ning immediately pulled Fuck Kang aside to question him. The bald man was the first to ask, that tentacle monster, was its strength really greater than Lai Cheng's? When the monster was mentioned, Fuck Kang couldn't hide his frustration. He clenched his teeth in anger and resentment, explaining that the monster had nearly killed his uncle and Ahang in the blink of an eye. Whether Lai Cheng could have done the same, Fuck Kang wasn't sure about Lai Cheng's strength when facing the tentacle monster. Then, after thinking carefully about the monster's strength at that time, Fuck Kang also became concerned about both Sister Ning's and the bald guy's abilities, so he asked, Do you think you two can handle that monster? Putting this aside, it seemed that what they were really worried about was Xiao Yong's strength. The bald guy went on to explain how he tested Xiao Yong's abilities. When Xiao Yong threatened him, although he was quick to react, he only managed to draw his weapon and didn't even have time to get into a fighting stance. Hearing this, Sister Ning stroked her chin, puzzled, and asked, how could he be that strong? Sister Ning still couldn't believe that someone as new as Jiang Yi could be so exceptional, so she started analyzing things in her own way. Maybe the tentacle monster succeeded because of a sneak attack, which meant it might not be as dangerous as they thought. The bald guy agreed with this, but still had the intention to eliminate Jiang Yi, which made sense. But either way, he couldn't be left alive. If one day he and Lai Chang joined forces, right when they were making plans, someone might come knocking at the door. Knock, knock, knock. Sister Ning signaled for the bald guy to stay quiet. Shh, come in. It was Lai Chang. As soon as he saw the eagle emblem, he greeted them. Leader. The bald guy turned to respond politely. What's up, Lai? Fa Chang, seeing Lai Chang enter, quickly stood up, but his expression showed clear dissatisfaction. Lai Chang initially thought they were mourning the loss of a loved one. Wanting to show support, he gently said, Brother Da, Sister Ning, I understand this is difficult. Please take care of yourselves. The bald man tried to stay composed, replying, the world has been in chaos for a long time. There's no point in dwelling on it. I've adapted. Let's focus on the matter at hand. Xiao Yong clearly has potential, so I'd like to offer some guidance. Jiang Yi's abilities are likely similar to mine. As for the officer position, I suggest we consider him seriously. Previously, Brother Da had been cautious about a possible alliance between Lai Chang and Jiang Yi. Trying to raise a concern, he said, that might not be the best idea. His background. Just as he began, Sister Ning subtly gestured for him to stop. Understanding her signal, he paused and looked at her, puzzled. Taking initiative, Sister Ning said, Jiang Yi has the strength to be an officer, but he should earn that position through meaningful contributions so that others can recognize his value. At that moment, Lai Chang brought up a notable accomplishment from earlier, defeating a dangerous creature. Wouldn't that count as a contribution? His tone made it clear how much he respected and believed in Jiang Xiao Yong. Here's the translated text. So Sister Ning, full of schemes, replied, if he can kill the tentacle monster, prove himself, isn't that a 2-in-1 deal? Right now, we're deliberately setting up this challenge to use the monster as a tool to kill someone. Her eyes narrowed, white as snow, looking very shrewd. Lai Chang noticed how difficult and strange these two people were. He felt angry on Xiao Yong's behalf and stepped closer to clarify. If even the two of you can't do it, how can you expect him to? Is that fair? Then, sitting confidently in her chair, Sister Ning crossed her legs, pretending to be proud, and began to provoke with her words, don't worry, we're not sending him to his death. We'll also step in, gather all the forces from the camp, and completely eliminate the threat from the tentacle monster. A little later, Sister Ning, the bald guy, and Lai Chang went to find Jiang Xiao Yong. After messing with Xiao Yong's mind, he finally understood and replied, oh, so this action is all about me. I've just arrived, and I'm already taking on such a big role. Is that really okay? Speaking on behalf of the bald man, Sister Ning replied gently, oh, there's nothing wrong at all. Anyway, the strength you've shown might even be on par with mine and the eagles. Now clearly showing respect for Jiang Xiao Yong, both Sister Ning and the bald man seemed to value him highly and earnestly told him, if this mission is successful, the third spot in this concentration area will be yours. Though their tone was full of ambition, their expressions still seemed somewhat sly. After saying this, the bald man turned to Lai Chang, forced a smile, and even pretended to ask for Lai Chang's opinion. Brother Lai, Jiang Yi has used his strength to get ahead of you. Do you have any objections? His words were meant to provoke some competition between the two. Lai Chang could see the slyness in the bald man's words. He clearly felt uncomfortable, showing it on his face as he responded, no objections. Then, in a relaxed manner, he waved 2 fingers and said, all right then, it's decided. We'll set off in 2 days. While they were talking, Jiang Xiao Yong quietly used his spiritual eye ability to assess who was good and who was bad, maintaining an outward appearance of calm. However, inside, he was mocking them with a thought. Haha, such sincere suggestions I'm almost touched. Without the use of his spiritual eye, Jiang Xiao Yong could already tell the true intentions of the 3. Sister Ning and the bald man were both sly and deceptive, while Lai Chang's attitude was neutral and uninterested. It was clear that Lai Chang just wanted to live right and peacefully survive the apocalypse. The 2 crafty foxes, on the other hand, had hidden agendas.